I'd really like to pass it to you two because you're the
Yep.
ones been
Okay.
working on it. So why don't you lead us through this project?
Yeah, so, I think I gave you one too. One of
Yeah,
these
me
maybe.
too has one.
Okay, so Andrew and I talked, kind of worked on this a little bit, and the top part of this document is, the agreement that we've already agreed to, and number 3 is what we're doing, I feel like. So I started with our goals from last year, and first I tried to draft them into a kind of a value statement or a vision. And that's what that first thing is, the first little paragraph. The Mapleton School Board of Directors believes and envisions a school where everyone feels safe, welcomed, and supported, where community connection to the school is strong, and where learning is innovative and effective in preparing students to be, and then I kind of got stuck. But then when I was talking to Andrea, like her thinking was more that we take the goals and turn them into the guiding beliefs and still have it something bulleted out, but that are that instead of being goals that we accomplish, they're just things that guide us through the year. So that's what the second part is, the 1 through 4. I just took what we had before and changed them into different kind of statements. So I don't think we need both necessarily because they really say the same thing. And if we want to keep, and I'm not saying that we need to keep them, I just took the goals from last year because they still seemed relevant to me. Changing the COVID one, so right now the COVID one is living in number 4. We just kind of took out COVID, that we always want to be flexible and forward thinking, whether we're in the middle of a pandemic or not. So yeah, that's kind of it. But if we do keep the 4 guiding beliefs, then if we want a vision statement that says something different, we could certainly do that. But I don't know. We also have our mission statement that we read at the front of every board meeting. So I just didn't want to get. I don't know what we want.
I mean, when I'm looking to me, this first paragraph leads us to these 4 bullet points. If you just had 22 guiding beliefs and vision statement, the board believes in, feels like it needed to be prefaced with kind of a unifying notion. So I like what you wrote up here.
Yeah.
Just leave it collectively all there.
Yeah, I would.
And I actually even think to me that is like a vision statement, and then the 4 would be like goals, and then we could even get crazy and put objectives to each goal if we wanted to. Like, here's how we do this,
But they're not goals. They're just
Well, they could be. I mean, I guess I don't know. I'm thinking about like grant writing, like the objective, maybe they're not goals, or those kinds of terms, like the definition for those terms are always a little like fungible to me. So I don't know what we'd actually want to call them. But like I agree with Michelle. I like the vision statement, and I like these because it breaks it down into some practical things.
Okay.
And even beyond that, if we wanted to say, how are we supporting them? You could put a couple things under there, like here's how we're supporting district staff efforts to continually improve classrooms, blah blah blah. I don't know that we need that, but
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Is it customary to give so much verbiage, or?
And I don't necessarily, because to me this is more like what we keep as the forefront as we're making decisions and discussing things, that's when the how kind of comes out, because we'll be using these, in our decision making. Yeah, and I get your point about, the definition of goals can vary. I just don't, I guess my thing is, I think of as a goal as something you accomplish and cross off. And I don't think this sort of stuff is something you ever really accomplish. You strive for it, but that's probably just my definition.
yeah, and I don't
Well,
think
or like you're saying, the guiding beliefs, like it kind of guides.
Yeah.
These ideas guide our decisions and the processes we go through.
Yeah, I don't care what we call them. I agree that I think they're nicely said.
Then my other question would be, for the statement, if we're going to keep that statement, the paragraph of the first one, how does it end? Because it could just be, and where learning is innovative and effective in preparing students, period. But, or is there do we have an idea of what we're preparing students to be?
I mean, I don't love the word successful because I think it's, the connotation is always financial, but like really we're preparing students to be successful in life. And, you know, I like to have a broader view of what success means. And, you know, to each her own, you know, I'll ascribe a definition to success, but that's a possibility, because that is, you know, and success looks different on every kid, you know.
Yeah.
For
some.
sure, yeah.
I mean, I like thoughtful, contributing members of society, that speaks to me specifically, but I think that it's more, you know, some won't, and if they're successful, you know, it'll look different for them.
That's true, yeah.
Can I offer?
Sure.
Yeah.
The current school board mission encouraged and empowered to reach their educational and personal potential. So could it just weave
Could sure
that
be
into
that.
be preparing students to meet their educational and personal potential?
Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah.
Of course.
yeah, that makes good sense. Preparing students to.
Something and I brought it up, or I've got it written here in comments to the board, that I learned this at this conference that I was at this weekend, is to, there was a discussion on mission statements. And the ones that were, the thing that I noticed and that they brought home every time is that it says all students. Ours doesn't say that, by the way, so that's why I wanted to bring it up today for us. But like here, in preparing all students to reach their potential. It's just a stronger statement, because there are the kids that get left behind. We don't want to,
Yeah.
we want to acknowledge that.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, that's good, Sue. I think that's great.
Yeah, that's perfect.
And just to, maybe this is maybe a clarifying question. There is school board vision on here, and it's a set of belief. We strive to base all our decisions on what's best for students. We believe that all students can learn and must strive there. So there's a nice set of belief statements there. So, I guess my clarifying question is: are these more of those, or are they something different? And you're using guiding beliefs and value statements.
Is
That
this,
be,
is this off the working agreement?
This is the current, on the board, like on the school website, if you go to the board vision, mission, and goals, the mission, you guys read, I mean, all of
Okay,
us read it off regularly, but then there's a set of school board vision statements, and then some school board goals that have COVID kind of woven through them. So do you know when these are these last year's, Karen, or
Yeah.
does
those
anybody
look
know?
like
Yeah.
last year's or-
And the year before.
See, that's the, those goals, where it says Mapleton School Board goals, that's where, Mary Ellen's saying the board believes in, and just changing the, actually those,
Yeah, honestly, if I would have looked on the website like I should have and seen that this was already here, like, I feel like we should have done that way back, like 3 years ago when you first brought this up, like,
Yeah,
because I thought we were, everything was kind of lost and we were sort of starting from scratch.
right.
But shame on me for not kind of looking back.
Oh, no,
there.
not you,
well,
does
you just spent extra time on something that was already done.
Oh, that was already, basically already done, so.
Well, but I think it might actually streamline it a little bit. I mean, the part at the bottom, strong, I have it on my neck to see.
I guess I would want to though look at these now. I need to look at them together.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
check,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
I mean, we don't want to duplicate.
No.
or
but-
just like completely get rid of this without thinking about what,
Right.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
We might be missing something. Yeah.
Mhm.
So
Well,
I don't know what's a good. I mean, I would be happy to
like,
try and put the two together and bring something back to the next board meeting if you guys are, or to share it with you outside of the board meeting, maybe so that you can look at it in advance and we can just sort of decide on it at the next meeting.
I mean, I really like the language in here a lot. And so And I think just quickly looking at that, like, that's fine and everything. For some reason, I like this language, like the language part of it better. So, yeah, I think there could be some nice mixing,
Yeah.
building.
Yeah, don't throw out everything, but maybe the things that are basically the same but
Just
said
did we
differently.
miss, yeah, did we, is
Yeah.
what are we missing from each of these?
Yeah.
How can we combine it?
Yeah. Okay.
They definitely feel aligned. Like when I was
Yeah.
reading that's why I pulled this up. I was
You're like, hey, I've heard that before.
It's similar, but it is different. But just merging them. But yeah, I think without knowing, if you didn't know those are there, you did a good job getting most of
Well,
it.
the goals are here. So what you're looking at right now is
Down this
exactly
part,
what
yeah,
yeah,
with the
it was the
vision
vision part.
parts of
Yeah,
it,
no.
Yeah.
And I don't, so my personal feeling is that this will change and it'll be a mission and a vision or mission and vision and belief statements, but it won't be goals anymore. And part of the reason I say that is, to me, it's confusing between if we can keep calling them goals, but you're gonna put out some goals too, which it talks about in this agreement that you are supposed to meet and kind of check off. And so I like having a different word for the different things.
I mean,
It keeps
board
it
goals
straight.
and superintendent goals are
Yeah.
different.
Yeah, they are different.
So, I mean, I think you're right to just
Call
to
them
call
something
them
different,
different.
yeah.
I mean, and these aren't goals, actually. I mean, because,
I think
They're
they're
not-
mission.
They're,
right.
I
Like
think they're hopefully guiding beliefs.
Guiding
Yeah.
Yeah, but they have a verb, aspect to them. So exercising, maybe
Mhm.
supporting,
Building.
But it's what we
these, like-
believe in. I mean, if you start each
Yeah.
sentence with the board believes in,
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, got it. In the top.
that's, yeah. And I only say that too because in our agreement, this working agreement, the word goals is in Sue's section and the word beliefs and vision,
Mhm.
value statement is in our section. So I want to, trying to get us back to that, what we said in the working agreement,
Mhm.
which even that, we varied from there, so.
You know, the other thing about beliefs and goals, to me, a belief is something that doesn't change easily, and it's not like it's got a start and a finish, whereas a goal,
Yeah.
you know, you really are hoping to
Yeah.
get
Hey,
there.
get there and set a new
Yeah.
goal.
It's setting a goal,
It seems
right,
like there
right.
should be an end mark, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Cool. Well, thank you for doing it.
Yeah.
I know.
yeah, 100%.
How do we want to spend the next 30 minutes that we,
Well then, do we have Sue's goals
Do-
to talk
oh,
about?
that's right,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
right,
we
that's
can do
right.
that.
Well, just to make sure, so you're good on the working agreement, because I don't know if we had completely finished it, and I wanna make sure, because Sue mentioned getting it posted on the website, and so I wanna make sure. So you're,
I think we were
Good
good
with
with it, because
those
you sent it out
months.
to us. Yeah, with,
yeah,
yep,
just,
I thought it was on the website.
no,
Oh,
I,
okay.
no, you added the months and then sent it out to us, and,
Yeah.
yeah, and I thought that was,
Me too.
yeah, meant we were final or
Good.
not. Thank you for doing that.
I'm going to, on that section that has the months, I'm gonna rearrange them so that they're in,
Order,
Yeah,
yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah.
August, June.
just,
Just a second to get, let's see.
you gonna connect to that?
I can. Here it is. Let's see. What do I have to, what does that say? Windows K. Just- grab so they don't have to be in my ear. So I think the 3 I sent out, and I've been saying actually 80% lately, so I'm just gonna change it here. I like that better than. So the kind of three breakdown are attendance, safety, which I don't know if that's the right word for it, but a lot of the things tie back to safety, and then community engagement together. So attendance, we've been running some data, and I actually just got, do I still have it open? I just got a nice I know, Mizu wrote me back asking, like, wanting to see data, and we just got the suppressed data that shows attendance over the last five years back. I actually think I can pull this up quick.
I wasn't expecting you to find any data actually, so.
Well, we've been pulling it. Interesting. You sent it to me. I thought I downloaded it. I opened it. I just can't see the one part of my screen that would open me. What? I don't see how many things I have open. Don't mind me. Okay, well, you might, if you have, oh, here we go, this is what I need, yep. Jen and you just sent it to me. Well, just kidding, I won't waste your time. But I will send those through email. We just, and I have to make sure, there's a suppressed and an unsuppressed, and I can only send one of those out, but essentially our regular attendance is, leaves room for improvement. And we ran on October 4th, which is halfway through the first term, and then on November 4th, which was the end of term, we ran attendance data for the high school, so 7th through 12th grade, and for each grade level, like, I think freshman was like 7 out of 10 kids were regular attenders. It was 6 out of 10. The juniors were like 3 out of 10 kids. Like that's our group that needs the most attendance intervention. And then we had a number of kids showing significant progress between October 4th and November 4th. Especially the ones we've been wrapping a lot of supports and attention around.
The ones who are chronically not here, is that COVID related? Is it cultural?
It's a whole lot of things, but I think, I don't think it's accurate to say our attendance issues are only COVID based. Like if you look back at the attendance before that, there's some, it definitely was better at one point, but.
I mean, that's what I mean by cultural, like,
I
is it
think
over
it's-
time, like a Mapleton thing?
I would argue, yes, definitely impacted more during the last couple of years. I was talking with a couple teachers who have been here longer and said, at one point we got it to where it was a lot better, and then COVID hit. So it was like a lot of things in place to improve, and then quick to go back, and then now we're trying to put those things back in place. The K2 regular I think I wrote that on here. The K2 regular attendance rate for last year is 29%, and the state average was 65%. And that's we've pulled data probably 6 different days just to look at what it is today, and almost every time it's twice as many absences at the elementary level than up here, and in terms of rate. So if it's 10% of kids missing over here, it's 20% over there. Almost every time we pulled it, and so that's a lot of my concern is if that's what you practice
At a younger
your
age.
first K3, and that's why they do the K2 rate is you build those good practices, and then you're more likely to keep coming. And so when we say cultural, yes, but I actually think it's our culture here. We got to get where hey, every day at kinder matters, and bringing bringing kids in. So,
On the high school level, like when you said the juniors are have the most struggling attendance rate, is that, like, two things, is that something that's typically that age group over the years? And then is it at all, like, credit-wise or grade-wise based? Because I know, at least at our school, that's where you really start to, they're like, oh, I'm so behind, I should be done with school in a couple of years. But at that point, you know, if you get into their senior year, they can kind of see the finish line if they're not too far behind. But their junior year, they're like, oh crap, I'm like a whole year, I'm all this credits behind. And then it's that junior year that seems like it's the real struggling year of like, is it worth it?
yeah.
And then they kind of fall off right there.
I think yes to all of it. I also think like that's a pretty impacted group just in terms of life. And I think if you can develop kind of a culture of attendance inside a small group, because we're always kind of in small groups with the juniors, and so it's like, like 3 of them are going to be missing anyway if I don't go today. I think it's all the things, and so changing it's going to take all the things, and kind of be a kid by kid approach in a lot of ways. But there are systems. I can't remember who I was talking to about this, but like we don't have a robocaller for attendance, and the data and research say that it's annoying. I get the receiving end of that for both kids regularly. And it's like, I don't listen to the whole thing, and I don't know, maybe in my deep subconscious, I'm like, no, you're going to school because I don't want the call. It seems like it's not, it doesn't make a difference, but the research says it does. And so those are some of the things, like how, systematic, like, hey, just so you know your kid's not here, or especially like your kid was tardy to 6th period. I get that one every day for one of my kids. And so it's like, when they get home, you have that conversation, like, where were you? Why are you late to that class? Every day.
Who's the research done by?
Like attendance data, like out there. There's money in like kind of a branding of Everyday Matters, and they have like a lot of research links, and that's one of the highest recommended, most kind of cost effective or return on investment practices is a robocaller.
It wouldn't have to be a robocaller, just somebody calling. But
Well, we do.
I know that.
Call. That's the thing. I actually think, but we don't like. That's my question. We do it.
Yeah.
One, it would take
No, I know.
that
So I'm not
off of our
suggesting.
plates, and sometimes that kind of quick check-in. What do you need? I think gets. We're checking on you. So and so's not here today. We really want to see them tomorrow. Like that plays out. I don't know if it plays out for every kid every day. Ideally, yes. Reality.
Right.
Is different. And I do think that like direct contact is really important, but if you have a robocaller and then you call and say, hey, we missed you, now you're getting both of those and you never let an absence go. And I think that's what the robocaller does, is just reinforce like, yep, it's annoying, but we care about your being here every period of every day.
And is it a costly thing?
I need to check in with you on it. That's the next step is to
And can it be used for other things?
That's what whoever I was
we
talking
talked
to
about
about.
it.
Did we
Talked
all
about
have a
it
conversation
before.
about
Yeah, we
this?
Yeah, because like
and-
you can do it for all sorts of stuff.
Yeah. And
You
is
could
that-
remind board members that they're gonna be 15 minutes
That's what we were
late.
talking about.
I really was working for the school.
Just had to do that.
like
when
maybe
you
you
were
like
like,
I
oh,
know
I'm
Bridge
so
does it
sorry.
when
I
they're doing,
really
like,
apologize.
senior night hungry.
Totally.
It'll call everybody.
I didn't remember.
It-
If she hadn't said anything, I would have been.
I don't know if it would do what, I don't know if it would do that.
Yeah. That's kind of my next step to figure out, like,
Okay. Yeah.
like, I know 4J has one and it makes sense for 16,000 kids. What's the cost for?
Well, we're
somewhere small?
identifying a problem, now we have to
Yeah.
start moving
Check on solutions.
steps. Yeah.
And really, go ahead.
Well, I have a question on the actual word. I don't understand. 80% of students attend school regularly, more than 90%?
Yeah.
What
So
am I trying to
so they.
say there?
Sorry.
I should not put my feet up.
My arms long enough.
Oh, you're so
Darren,
close.
Yeah.
need to grow an inch. So the way data gets reported in the state, you'll see chronic absenteeism, and chronic absenteeism is anything under 90%. Then, instead of talking about chronically absent kids, you try to frame it in the positive, which is the regular attenders, and so regular attenders is over 90%. So I was trying to communicate that in that sentence to try to define terms, and it's just more confusing, I think. But
So is this 90 the same as this 90, or is this 90 something different?
Regular days. It says 90. Okay,
Or is that one
80% of
the
students
goal?
attend school regularly. Oh, so it's actually two different
Yeah, I
things
get
that
that.
we'd be doing. One is the number of students, or the percentage of students who come to school more than 90% of the time. The other side of that, when we pull a regular daily attendance,
Okay.
we want that to be over 90% as well. And really, if you're getting both of those, now you're intervening with the kids who miss a lot of school, but you're making sure that all your kids are coming regularly, right? They may miss a day here and there for something, but each day we want 90% of our kids here as well.
So that first 90% is the definition of what regularly
Yes.
means.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm with you now.
So in order to throw solutions at this problem, you have to know why they're not coming.
Yeah.
Have you identified?
We're not there. I mean, we're not trying to solve the problem yet. We're just trying to get the goals out there, right?
For s-
Yeah,
for
but
sure, for sure.
yes,
Okay.
I mean, that's, a lot of it's getting to know the kids and talking one-on-one with about things that are keeping them from
Right.
there, and it's across the board,
Mhm.
but what we're finding is just giving attention to it is getting them, and really, I think our best intervention is when we see a chronically absent kid in here, we're like, hey, you're here, and if we see him here tomorrow, is that 2 days in a row? A lot of times you'll hear me, I'm like, is that 5 days straight? And I get well, I wasn't here Tuesday, because I'm not here Tuesdays, so I just guess that they were. And then they're like, I wasn't here Tuesday, I was like, that's day 3 today, I better see you next week, and it's just
I mean, to Mary
trying to
Ellen's
keep it-
point, we're just making goals. I was just saying that, it was kind of
Are we
almost,
doing it?
almost like,
You want to jump in and fix it?
Yeah,
No,
absolutely.
not at this meeting, I
Good.
just want that
Approach.
seed
That
in
nugget,
there,
yeah.
just,
Yeah.
that's.
And the answer is, I think we're doing that for sure. 7-12 need to extend the view of that to really figure out, okay, now what's the K6 experience?
I mean, I'm just curious why we know it at 7-12 and why we don't. That you can't have a 7-12 program unless you do this down
Yeah,
there first.
yeah.
So I would think that would come first before 7-12.
Yeah, part of it's because we're up here and we're talking to kids every day.
Also,
So
part of
that's
it probably, I mean, if you talk to a kindergartner, you're gonna have a harder time
Yeah.
hearing what those things are necessarily. You need to talk to the parents and the family too, but if you're talking to a junior,
You're
you're
They're a little
Sure,
more
they
open,
can. Yeah.
eventually.
Well,
Yeah,
they
but we need to be talking to families and
Right.
making that, and,
Yeah.
and, kinder, we've got a couple really high absentee kids this year, and it's like a recurring illness, and so I'm aware of those, but not the day-to-day, right? I know the kids who are recurring, but just on the, starting to pull data every single day and say who's here and who's not, and how do we make sure that they know we want them here, really is the next step, so.
I like that it's number one.
Oh, absolutely, I mean, we can't teach them if they're not here.
Exactly.
It turns out. We try to project it and it doesn't
Yeah.
work, so.
Right.
That second one, and this will come up a little bit in Division 22 tonight, but, so safety and belonging is really what I try to look at, and belonging is super wrapped up into attendance approaches, but at the core, really making sure all our basic required plans connected to safety, that they're all updated and in place and communicated, and everybody knows what's in them and how to use them. And I use the suicide prevention plan, it's prevention, intervention, and postvention, as an example, that's actually close to done, but in it are the tools that you use. So we did a large-scale training. 3 days later, I have a kid that's expressing suicidal ideation, people immediately use their training, get a hold of me. I have the tools in there, and I'm actually not sure, we don't have counseling staff, right? And I'm actually not formally trained in those next two steps, but they're there and they're kind of foolproof to some level. So I call and ask permission to the supports at Lake County Public Health. Can I use these two? Yes, absolutely. Walk through the screener, walk through the action plan, use those to get a hold of family to say, here's what we've talked about, what do you need? Here's resources we have for risk and harm reduction. Like, that's the intention of the plan. It's not just to write plans, it's that in that moment of crisis, well, I know what to do right now. Yep, and no matter who, if I'm not here, the next person knows how to open it and use that. So that's the intention of all these. Emergency preparedness, we have really in 2009 a really thorough job was done on one. It just needs some updating. And like in it, we had a little kiddo fall and break his wrist yesterday out here, and there's not. We don't have formal emergency medical response plans. We did fine, but it's one of those things that in the moment people are like, is there anything we're forgetting, and looking for the written thing, and we don't have it. You feel better that you're doing it all right when there's paramedics and little kids going off to the hospital. So those are the kind of things that will get updated. Yeah, any questions on, and obviously there's a long list there. Some of those get into like sexual violence prevention errands log. It has curricular connections to it, a requirement 4 times a year at a minimum per grade level, and then drug and alcohol prevention has education components to that, and so some of those are a little bit beyond the plan. It's into the curricular components. So, any thoughts or comments on that one? It's kind of a checklist. I mean, as a goal, it's like, this is for sure written as cross it off as you get them done.
Super important.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just foundational, and it doesn't matter who's sitting in your seat. Like, those things really need to just be institutionalized.
And then the last one, community engagement, but specifically that portrait of developing a portrait of a Mapleton graduate. Like, once that's articulated, everything else needs to anchor to that. I keep joking. I keep using the word anchor unintended and then liking it, so I was going to go with it apparently. But that becomes the core of all of the development of education plans. Even the answer to that question of preparing students to be blank, right? That should start to define that in ways that are defined by all layers of the community. So,
Could you tell us what those
all those letters
acronyms
are? Yeah, so the integrated plan, that's the student investment account, continuous improvement plan, high school success, career and technical education, everyday matters, and I have no clue. I can't ever remember it. It's something about early indicator interventions. That might actually be it. Early indicator intervention systems. It's data to look at like who's falling behind, who's off track for graduation. Yeah. And so that'll inform, right, all of that's interconnected, so that portrait of a graduate, all sorts of different engagement towards the planning process to say, okay, who are we, what are we up to, and how do we allocate the resources to get us there is kind of how those all weave together. So, but I think the one that I think will be the most public and a good goal to kind of like, did we do it or not, is the portrait of a graduate, and how were people engaged in it.
Oh, okay, perfect. Thank you.
A portrait of a graduate informs you the minute you get to this campus on that side.
Oh, absolutely. So
Right.
it's like if this is what we want our graduates to look like, what are the learning
okay.
experiences, right? And not just to look like what have they demonstrated
Exactly.
that when they shake your hand and get the diploma, you're like, I know you've demonstrated and shown this over the course of your obviously high school career, because it's a high school diploma, but it's not like you fall out of the sky in 9th grade and start doing those things. How do we prepare you in middle school? How do we prepare you in all the way down to pre-K?
Yay.
So. So language could probably be tightened up, but those are the goals. I mean, that's kind of what I'd love to be. We're doing a lot of stuff beyond that, but I think what I really want to be held accountable to is that we're moving the dial on those things. And when I say moving the dial, some of that is like actually like crossing off a whole lot of number 2 and 3. And I just want to say, like, I think I put a note. I don't know that those 80% of students and 90% daily are going to happen this year, but I don't want to I'm not really into like, let's get to 60% this year. I just want to get there. And I want to do it as, I want to hold that bar the whole time and say whether we're there or not yet.
And you can give us updates at what's being accomplished,
Yep.
rather than by this date, this will be accomplished.
Yeah.
It says it's
And
happening.
Yeah, I'll tell you the inputs and the data, and then, are we there yet? No, but are we getting closer? I hope so. So, yeah.
What did the board members think? Is there something missing, or is there something we want to?
I mean, like the community engagement program, I think that like includes, like the portrait of a graduate stuff would sort of include, like you were like indicating, kind of all of the academic work that's being done at all those grades. But like, I mean, I think these are all like very good, and I support them as goals. There's not an academic one on there that as, you know, specifically. So
I would say the portrait of a graduate one really, so you're saying in terms of academic outcomes.
yeah, or opportunity, academic opportunity.
Yeah, I
Or
think
out-
that portrait of a graduate, and hopefully when we talk about Division 22, there's a couple that'll come out that's like, you'll see once that's done, this will get more clearly communicated, right? And see those kind of curricular programs and plans. What I would like to say to that really is, by next year, that number 2 goes away. Where safety's still important to
Yeah.
us,
But
but
we have
we've done
you've
the
accomplished
foundation,
yeah.
where I don't need to worry about safety anymore, you know, like.
You don't need to worry about developing the
Preparation,
plan, it's the
exactly.
preparation part, yeah.
Yeah,
And
that's
then
still be worries.
Number 2, yeah, let me say that the right way. But that number 2 becomes academic
Or more academic.
focused.
Right, or
of
like implementing.
the graduate or portrait of graduate. Yeah.
Well, and I think trying to work really hard on number 1 while developing a lot of number 3,
Yeah.
then it
Starts
leads to that
Yeah.
eventually.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard to base a true goal on all of it until you figure out all the problems and what's
Pieces.
needed.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I do, for next year, there should be a whole lot of academic focus on there where it's like, okay, we laid the groundwork, now let's proofs in the pudding kind of thing.
Right,
Is
yeah.
that-
Yeah.
Is that a real saying? I just
Yeah.
feel like
No, that's-
60
no,
when
people
I
say it.
That's a real
Yeah.
saying, that's a real
Is that
saying.
wrong?
It's not said anymore.
Yeah.
No
that's
one
what
ever
I'm-
says that anymore.
Well, it depends, like my great grandma, yes.
See, I felt 20 years older when I said it. I was like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
You just lost your street
I
cred.
did.
Okay, they look great to me.
Yeah, that's great. Forward motion.
Yeah, yeah, and I like the idea that like you kind of like, okay, 2 we can do, it's gonna be done, it is foundationally important to keep our students safe, then it can go off and you think, or you know what's
Focus
next,
on, yeah.
kinda, so like, that's nice, yeah.
Only other thing that I think about, because I'm thinking about, the evaluation process and, kind of what we need to do. Because I'm looking at the calendar and it's in February, we're supposed to start that process. So obviously these will come up then again, but I would say something, and when I was organizing my papers to come back to this meeting and work with Andrea today, the superintendent's thing, the training, what's that called, that we paid for through
The
our
institute.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Superintendent
the new
Institute.
superintendent institute.
So that would be like, I think maybe not a goal, but I feel like it's an expectation of mine anyway, I don't wanna speak for the whole board, that you would be going to that and sort of report, maybe not reporting, but
Yeah,
letting us know if it's being useful or what you're,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff.
So the kickoff, I think Michelle and I talked about this the other day, I'm gonna screw up dates, but I went to, one was at a conference, and I can't remember if it was the first 2 days and then the conference, or one day and then the conference, but engaged fully in person there, The second one was in Salem, and I can't, something, like, we were either understaffed or something came up where there was no way I could be away at Salem, I don't remember the timing of it. And so I called into a couple, like, small pieces of it, but was also covering on campus there. And then there's a women's superintendent group and some new superintendent group, and then the mentorship, that, I need to look back at the calendar on this, but anyway, those parts, I think what I need to do more, like Chris Para is the mentor, and like I'll shoot off an email of like, do you have this? And get something like that, but not like a, hey, let's check in and do this, and I think getting closer to taking a breath where I can do that, and a lot of it's just, and I think I've shared this with, at least with Andrea and Michelle on our calls, like, I don't think I was prepared mentally, I don't know the right word there. I have been surprised where not having a counselor, it's like, oh yeah, we do that all day too. And so and a lot of the times of those calls are at 8 a.m. and I wish that wasn't the case, because
You can't reach
that's,
days,
I mean, I
yeah.
have kids, I have to bag check at 8 a.m. and send in and do, that we have kids who are not gonna be successful in the day unless you have that check, like, here's your daily schedule, here's our goal for the day, we got this.
Right.
Let's walk down there, make sure you go into the first one, like that's the level of some of the
Yeah, it seems like later in the day, as the day gets going, would be
Yeah.
nice.
we're,
9,
yeah,
10.
even this morning, like, I was like, Andrea, can I go at 8:30? And it was like, I kicked somebody out of my office at 8:26, and then CPS called it at 8:30, and so
is
it
there,
took 10 more
are
minutes.
they archived, are these, are they?
Yeah, so, some, yes, I would say COSA does some follow-ups for the larger ones. You'll get like an email for the, what I'm mixing up is the women's one and the new superintendent one. Anyway, you'll get a little bit of a recap and here's some resources. I read all of those, and then something I was talking about is like, even the off the record, which OASE I think hosts, I'm in about 4 different meetings during the week that all talk about what was shared at that meeting. So like sometimes if I'm making a choice between the kid in crisis down the hall or that meeting, I'm gonna pick the kid in crisis because I'm gonna read through those notes, and I really am well connected to our superintendent network in the county to call and say, hey, I know you're good at this, can you, do you have that? Like send this over, what does this even mean? And then yesterday I was in superintendent council, which is Tuesday once a month, and there's breakout sessions to talk to each other and just check in, and then if you have a question, like Heidi Brown and I sit next to each other and I'm whispering to her, like, hey, what's this? And so kind of catching up on those spots, so.
So the new superintendent institute it's a short-term thing. It ends.
I think it's actually 2 years, so it's
2
like
years.
certain number of sessions.
It's a long ending away.
Yeah,
Not
it's
what
a
I was
certain
doing.
number of sessions over 2 years, and so like the next one is the law conference, which I want to say is like December 8th and 9th, and one of those, I don't know the agenda off the top of my head, but like usually like the 8th is, or maybe it's, yeah, I need to pull it up, but like it'll be a 2-day conference, and either the day before is come early and it's all the new superintendent stuff, and then stay for the conference, or the first half of one of the days, something like that. Each one's slightly different, but
Are they on
that
Zoom
one
or that's
they'll
in
Zoom,
person?
they're designed for in person, and they accommodate calling in. It's not super helpful to call in, but
Yeah.
I at least click the
It's an
button a
option
couple
if you can.
times and try to listen in and see if it's something. And there's parts of those that are super helpful, and there's parts that aren't.
Yeah.
They're like, I don't know, you probably know this about me over time, but like the parts where vendors come tell us how to save education, I'm pretty much mentally checked out of. So
Yep.
those are the kind of things, if I see,
And those are the kind of things where like, I could be in the hallways talking to kids
Yeah,
and
yeah,
saving
yeah.
education.
That's
Like,
right. And
Yeah.
I don't remember when that Salem one was or what the but there was definitely something playing out
Right.
where
Right.
it's like, well, I can go there and hope it's okay here, or I can
Right.
stay here.
Right, and so much of that like attendance thing, in addition to sort of tracking data and everything, is just being a presence and one that like is sort of dipping in where you need to notice, and you can't do that with too much,
Yeah.
but same time, knowing the resources and having the resources is good, so,
Yeah.
yeah.
There's gotta be some kind of a balanced, happy medium between, like, those things, the institute and the time you spend with the mentor, that was part of the deal too. Those things are, there has to be a real important upside, and why, we paid for it and we want you to do it.
Yeah, that's and it's awesome to have there when something comes up, and there are definite things like on the horizon. I'll say bargaining is not my background,
Right.
and so making sure that, well before that,
It's coming.
it is, so 2 of them, and so those are the things, like we talk about it in superintendent council, and a lot of them are going through it and giving advice to each other now, because some of them are in it, so you hear some of it, and that's my, my takeaway from that is like, you're not prepared for that. So then it's like, okay, that's what I'm gonna reach out to a mentor and say, come sit with me and talk me through this whole process and all the ins and outs beforehand, before it comes. But I tend to do better with knowing what I'm asking you versus just give me
Tell me
the
what you
download
know.
of what you think's important right now,
But you don't know what to ask if you don't,
Sometimes you don't know what
if
you
you
don't
don't
know.
know what it is.
well, and that's
Yeah.
where these things are beneficial.
Yeah.
Like all these other networks I'm in, I am getting that data to then, so,
Cool.
and even Division 22, that was a focus. I think that was the new superintendent one. That was a focus of one of their sessions, and so it was like you got the nice overview of it, and then when you go back to do it, I know how to do it, and I'm doing it, and then more localized questions come up like, do we have this? And then I'm walking into Jaren, calling Brenda, calling Jody I think I called her for 3 of them. She was at watching hockey practice or something in Vegas, and she's like, they said, hey, give me the update on this, those kind of things, so.
Okay, well, looks like it's after 6 and we probably, and the public has arrived.
Welcome, public.
Yeah. Okay, how about the flag salute? Start with that.
Good, we just stand up.
Yeah.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We were going to review, let me read the mission statement. Our mission is to provide a safe learning environment where all students are encouraged and empowered to reach their educational and personal potential. We strive to base all our decisions on what's best for students. We're going to review the agenda. We're going to make
Yeah, my one recommendation in the action part, if we move Division 22 up above, or before all of those policy updates,
okay,
it might provide slightly more context to all those.
all right. We'll do it. We just had our work session on board goals and the working agreement. Nice work, crew. Public comment on agenda items? Public? Nada. All right. District reports, how about our middle school, high school report?
Yep. So a lot of report stuff's gonna come up in through. It's a long agenda today. So and I did a student on there.
Yep.
Can I read the student one first?
Sure.
I think that way I'm not repetitive to what they bring up. We don't have a student rep tonight for a couple reasons: basketball practice and I can't remember if it was illness or out of townness, but Hello, board members. We apologize for not having a representative with you today. We have many things going on at the school right now. Our yearbook is a district-wide project this year. The yearbook class has been working on making sure all grades from preschool through 12th are represented, and that our yearbook really shows off how wonderful our Mapleton community is. We have 2 editors, 10th graders, Eve McMaster and Sammy Lynn. Ordering should be available before our winter break for all grades. With many students doing after-school sports and other activities, we have clubs as part of our school day now. Every Tuesday we go to either outdoor adventures, Dungeons and Dragons, board games and tea time, art, music, or study hall. We are in the middle of trying our 2nd club this year, and after Thanksgiving we will be choosing the clubs we are going to be with for the rest of the semester. Engineering is building a model wastewater treatment plant and touring the Florence plant. They go tomorrow?
Yeah, tomorrow.
Tomorrow? Physics built a computer app that models what happens when you text and drive. Middle school science groups designed an arena for Hunger Games contest. The student council is finishing up our first big fundraiser of the year. If you haven't gotten a holiday wreath yet, there is a sign-up page on one of these back tables for after the meeting.
I see it.
Oh, I see it.
Is it there? All right,
Yeah.
buy a wreath. Actually need to do that today, so I'm glad that's there. Tables. This fundraiser is letting us throw our fall festival this Friday from noon to 3. And providing us with the funds for the student council members to go to a leadership conference this spring. We are in the process of planning an event and dances for winter. During our fall festival, we are making a Mapleton banner where every community member can place their painted handprint. We are also going to have a coloring contest, crafts, games, and food for sale. Sorry, I'm getting it. Still in, but says waiting for the host on Zoom. Or on whatever, I think Joey's on there. Yeah, sorry. Nope, I already said that. Our district principals, Joy Orenick, Sue Wilson, and Brenda Moyer, all do staff shout-outs to let everyone know they're appreciated, so we thought it'd be nice to do student shout-outs. Here are some that students turned in today. Tucker Ford, he's always chill with us even when we don't deserve it. He's amazing. I didn't read these yet. Dom Stewart, he's always friendly. Dom is always the hype man, but still helps us focus. Renee for feeding us, and Ramil, he helps me with math and is always kind. It's kind of cool. The shout outs are spreading, so that's fun. And I'll give total credit for the shout outs starting to Joy Orenick. So,
I never heard of a yearbook being K through 12.
No, but it's
Is
cool.
that unusual? I mean, is that common these days? 'Cause it was always a high school thing.
yeah, I have no clue the history of it here. I
It's
mean, all
not
the ones
here.
I've seen are
It's
high
never-
school, right?
right.
And,
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely new this
That's
year.
so cool, though.
I
What
like
a
it.
But I mean,
great-
they've had a lot of
Yeah.
involvement with the younger kids. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and
really
it's cool.
cool.
Like, we'll get requests from the elementary that an event's coming or that's they're doing something in class, and send a student over for pictures, and
That's
you know,
so
journalism could be reporting it as well. So
That sure
Getting
kind of packages the community school model.
Yeah.
yes, we have an example. We're starting to
And
bridge.
so what is that
So-
fall festival that there is that like what's the largeness of that? Is that just
So
like
my
the student
understanding
council
of
or-
that student council has been putting it together. I don't know how big their original intention was to get more people on campus for conferences, hoping that more families would come to conferences. So that was their original intent of it. The planning and doing of it.
I did see like
It's-
the notification, like somebody Janine, I think, put it out on Facebook, you know, like the flyer for it and stuff. That's the first place I saw it.
Okay.
But,
Yeah, and then, yeah, I know there's been encouragement for students, like, bring your family, and a lot of it's the student council kids are saying, like, hey, come here so that bring your family
Yeah.
and do conferences. So, obviously we have conferences. Tomorrow night, I've lost sight of this being Wednesday. I keep having to correct myself. Tomorrow night from 8 to noon, and then 8 to noon. 8, no. Jeez.
Yeah.
That's just how my time is.
4 to 8.
4 to 8 is what I'm trying to say. And then the next
8
morning,
to noon.
Friday, from 8 to noon. And so in talking, that's been kind of low attended though historically, and like somewhere in the 5 family range. And so we have the house structure, and then we assigned house adults, 5 kids each in their houses to call families and connect. Sounds like some of that happened through email too, but to connect with families and invite them to conferences. And then we have a page where we just kind of like, they could come any time, but we were trying to fill 3 slots at a time so that it wasn't all families at once waiting to talk to staff. So we'll see what the turnout is.
What's at the elementary, that's at the high school, like turnout and sort of how it's approached at the high school. What's the elementary?
Yeah,
approach?
elementary, so similarly they call and schedule those times with that classroom teacher, and then specials teachers kind of send some information over, and if there's a kiddo that it makes sense to have multiple teachers there, then they'll do that during that conference. So yeah, and I feel like that's been well attended historically, which that's true on every in every district. So we're kind of trying to match that up here on our end. So, what else? Enrollments are in there. We got 2 new kids today at middle school. Since those numbers.
Yay.
So, and I believe there's 2 more preschoolers this week. I don't know if they're
Yeah, I
in
heard
those
that.
numbers yet. Did they make it?
I was gonna print them out.
Or they made it in your email. So, are they not?
Yeah,
there?
the enrollment things,
Yeah.
I made it in the
Oh,
email.
they're
They
not-
definitely
they're
got
not
emailed
there.
today. Sorry,
They're just not in that thing, but.
Yeah.
But add 1 7th grader, 1 8th grader, and I think 2 preschoolers from the numbers
That'll
that are
be
on
over
there.
160.
Cool.
Which is higher than we started the year, even with 10-day drops. So we're going.
Yay.
And if you look at the trends each year, they tend to go down, and
Right.
at the very least, let's stay here. But I want them up.
Oh,
So,
Keep going. Cool.
And I've got Joy if you want to, whenever you want.
yeah. So I want to introduce Joy Orenick, our co-principal at the middle school, high school. Hi, Joy.
Well, you can see
Hi,
this.
Joy.
See if we can hear you.
Can we get the lights to?
Yeah.
Here.
Maybe.
Can you hear us? Can we hear you? Almost.
Oh, there we go.
Yay.
Hold on, we can't hear you yet. Keep smiling. All right, try now.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yeah.
perfect.
Hi everyone, so nice to meet you and hope to meet you all in person at some point soon.
Hi, Joy. Nice to meet you. Well, see you.
Welcome.
Several of you already, which has been great. So thank you for letting me come to Mapleton. It's been such a good experience so far. I'm really excited to be there, and more as I get to know the kids in the community, it's such a great place.
Yeah. Well, we know that that we scored with you, and you definitely scored with us. Yay.
Yeah, and yeah, it's just been fun. I mean, early on, splitting and not being there we're here 1 day a week, always on the same day. And actually, with illness, there were a couple days where that wasn't true, and so early on, but we've really developed systems for communicating back and forth and having those updates for, all right, here's where that got to, take it from here, and then big picture, where are we going, what are we leading, and yeah, enjoy it.
And it's working, or are you looking at things you've got to shift that would make it more efficient or effective?
Yeah, I mean, we talked, was that yesterday, or Tuesday, whenever that was. Like right now the days are Tuesday, Thursday, and so, but it can be hard for to feel like you have any level of follow-through to be 2 days apart. And so we're actually talking right now about whether Tuesday, Wednesday makes more sense, so that you get that back-to-back, go deeper in those 2 days versus spreading out.
Yeah.
And then we're kind of, I feel like, I don't know, Joy, definitely add in, but I'd say like iterating the way we lead and work together and with students and staff, and kind of like, okay, reflecting daily on did this work, how could we improve it, how do we kind of separate those and work together at the same time. But I think we're finding our groove, and we have a lot in common. We joke that we're separated at birth, so it seems to work pretty well. So Joy, anything you want to add on that?
I think you said it really well. I think, of course it was a bit of a shift I think for both Stu and I, the way that we've worked in the past. So it was just a lot of learning at first, trying to figure out how to make sure that loose ends get tied up and things get efficiently and effectively communicated, without spending, half the day, like, communicating about the last day. And I think we've come a long ways in that. And as Stu said yesterday, we were just talking about a couple little tweaks that will make things even more efficient. So I feel like we've definitely come a long ways already, and we're still always working to get better and better at doing that, and just better at serving the students and staff. So I think hopefully as we go, we'll just get super amazing at it.
And so, speaking to the students, I mean, you're meeting these kids and getting to know them, and also you're doing the observations and the evals. Is that how that's going to work out of our staff?
Yeah, we've split up some of the eval load so that we can kind of work together and calibrate the way that we're doing it. And we just kind of had that conversation a while back, and have shared with the staff who their evaluators will be, and have started meeting with them to do their learning and growth goals and professional goals and that kind of thing.
All right, super important part of your job description. Yep.
Yeah.
Cool. What else, board? Nothing else, so I think we're gonna relinquish you to your life in the evening.
Nothing else you wanna share, like blood type or anything?
Okay.
I have been trying Grant's blood type for a while now, and he refused to give it to me, and I'm just gonna keep working on it because it's a growth mindset.
Awesome. Thank you, Joy.
Yeah, thanks, Joey. Later.
Bye.
Great, thank you for having to show up, that's good.
And then district-wide, we
I don't know how.
hosted the Ruby Bridges Walk on.
Hit the top one and the third one, yeah.
Okay, well, that makes sense.
Woo! And
Yikes.
usually adjust better.
Wake up.
Whoa, wake up.
Yeah, Monday was we hosted the Ruby Bridges Walk, and went, I think, well. And it was fun to see community come out and together, kids kind of learning about Ruby Bridges through the week, and then getting a chance to engage in that walk. And then, if you did not see, Vanessa did send out a feedback today opportunity, so definitely we want to improve, and just recognition that the original letter was written for K-12, and the community invite and students was a K-12 approach, recognizing that the food share is a little further than maybe some of our kids are ready to walk or commute. Brenda had made a call to say, let's get that group on campus and do it locally. The permission slip did not make sense at that point. The letter didn't have those details, but another letter was not written, and so we've talked and made sure that when we make those decisions that it's different than the communication that went out for everybody else. We need to make that next letter, so keep everybody in the loop. So.
One thing that Vanessa said in her email to all of us was that it was the second one. We did this last year?
Not in
No.
Mapleton, so it was last
Oh,
countywide.
okay.
So
Oh, gotcha.
what this builds
I saw
on
that too,
is Yeah, and she's probably using that evaluation for
For
multiple
everybody, I
sites.
got
And
you,
so,
okay.
the United Way brought, Ruby Bridges in for a speaking session with kids across the county. And then that was like, let's see, if this is November, that was probably in October. And then the follow-up a couple weeks later was to organize the Ruby Bridges Walk to School, and it ended up at like 6 sites, maybe. I don't know off the top of my head. And then the expansion of that this year was to 9 sites in Lane County, and this is the first one in Mapleton. Bethel, 4J, Springfield all have had sites, and I think, I'm gonna say like Junction City or South Lane, I think had a site. I'm making that up at this point, but I wanna say there was one other district that got added this year, so.
It was such a cool event. I mean, I was not gonna come. It's definitely not the time I get out of bed.
It was
And
cool.
it was so cold.
I didn't believe that it was her.
I
Like,
know,
I had to
totally.
like go.
Wow. It was so worth it, every bit of it. I was just so happy to be there with kids and with community members who don't have kids in our school. It was just like such a right-on event. I'm
It was
down
nice.
for next year, for sure.
Yeah, nice to be one of those building blocks of community plus school. So
Yes.
And one of the partners was Safe Routes to School, and I have a follow-up meeting sometime next week. And I want to say Monday next week. We met before October, I think, and kind of went through what are some Safe Routes opportunities for rural. Is like, how do you think about that in a rural space? I'm used to not rural spaces, and came up with a list. So she's got some follow-up now to come back and say, here are a bunch of things that Safe Routes can promote. And she's been out here quite a few times and then participated in the event as well. So
Oh, cool.
I'm excited to see what that follow-up is. And that was everything from like better signage in the parking lot and maybe painting the lines in that parking lot up there to bike safety classes and those kind of things built into PE. So we'll see where that
It was
goes.
also, I was being a voyeur sometimes, or actually a, what is it, not a voyeur.
eavesdropper.
Thank you.
I think that's
What I meant. What's the ear part of the working? But I was listening to kids talk about Ruby Bridges, and actually the adults talking too, and just having like more fleshed out conversations about racism and bullying and, you know, like life skills. So while we're walking and it's cold, the sun's out, people were really, it just felt like the attention, and Vanessa did a really good job. She's like, don't leave here without reading these. And then Khaki had us all in unison reading the pledge.
Of course she did.
Yeah.
It was awesome. I mean, I
I
just
know.
think, you know, everybody played their role. It was really good. I had a really hard conversation with someone who had a different perspective, and I thought that was important. You know, it's not just all, we're all in the same, we all think the same. We don't all think the same, so let's talk to each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
We have a lot of other stuff going on, but I'll keep it to that for time today because that's a long action. And then elementary. This is abbreviated for sure. And Brenda is not able to join tonight. But is sharing that the Halloween Carnival was well attended and a great success thanks to Cassie and her volunteer crew. Rolling Readers started today. We have 9 volunteers, which will be able to serve 27 students. It's exciting to have volunteers in the building again. After the holiday week next week, we will be having Red Ribbon Week. That means we are celebrating being drug-free. In addition to having the opportunity to participate in a coloring contest, we'll have many activities throughout the week. The theme will be things to do that are more fun than drugs. Religious Release started a couple of weeks ago, and there are about 12 students that attend, and Michelle Moore is in charge of this program. Our 5th and 6th grade students have started a leadership club. We are working towards giving them the skills they need to be outstanding leaders of our future.
That's awesome. I didn't know about the 5th and 6th grade leadership. That seems like a good thing to be doing, huh?
Mm-hmm. It does. Yep. And good timing because they kind of are at the top of that elementary.
Yeah,
and so,
exactly.
like, you take advantage of that.
Yeah. I was at Rolling Readers, and it's the first time in 3 years that we've been together, or it feels like a full 3 years, I don't think it was, but it was really like old home week. Everybody was really happy to see each other, and the kids, they're new, and they're always happy to see us, and that makes us feel good, so really glad to see it rolling.
Rolling readers. So
And there was a Thanksgiving luncheon today.
There was,
I
yes.
wasn't able to go, but yeah, I know what happened.
yeah, anybody?
I went to the high school time just because it worked better for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they talked about all that went on in the earlier hour.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right. Now we're down to finance, tech, maintenance report, documentation. Anything that jumps out at any board member, or Jaren, do you have something you wanna throw at us?
We got some fuel, we got, Pike and Plumbing doing some repairs. The audits, just about, sounds like they're getting close to wrapping up.
When do they usually deliver that to us?
Supposed to be by December 31st.
Uh-huh. Okay, well, we'll see.
If it's not, then I'm going to RFP for a different company if we don't have it. It's like last year.
Okay.
And tech, we had a power outage Monday last week, remember right, for a couple hours, in like 1 AM or so. And it did something to my phone server. It started
Oh,
throwing
no.
errors, and so we lost phones, and ended up just having, after working on it all Monday, trying to figure it out, and a bit of Tuesday morning, I finally just rebuilt the whole system and
Whoa.
got them back up and running Tuesday. And so that technology, you know.
Do you think that's gonna happen every time there's a power outage? Cause we do
No,
have.
it's usually been fine.
Yeah.
Because I've had, I've shut the servers all down,
Yeah.
hard shut off a number of times and never had any issues.
Yeah.
And so I don't know what was up with this one.
Got it.
But encourages me to create more often backups,
Mhm.
more regular backups and
Mhm.
stuff, so.
Mhm.
And maintenance, Randy just asked me about today. We replaced the door on the gym that got messed up, and put a filter on the concession stand sink, have that test that I need to have Sue take to the company, and why it's nice and cool and not warm. The FM sheet metal, the company's been out looking at the system. There's all you can't see the thermostat, but all the thermostats are supposed to be tied into a central computer in the server room. And its Windows I don't know how long it's been crashed. Last time, a couple times ago when they came, it was crashed, and it's back out of the way, and so I'd never noticed it. When I noticed it, I was like, oh well, I tried a couple different Windows disks to see if I could get it to repair, and it didn't, and I guess they had already taken it disconnected so that the thermostats were supposed to be running individually instead of being all linked together, and that they don't seem to be, and so and they don't support that system, that computer that's in there anymore, even though, I mean, it was in the bomb, so not like it's that old.
Oh, my gosh.
And so, said
Dang.
they haven't for a couple of years. It's like, okay.
Should have sold us a demo.
Yeah, I tell you, for
We
real.
love technology.
So they are
Yeah.
putting in a new system and replacing, I don't know how many 7 thermostats or something in here.
Is that on warranty? No. What's the price tag to that?
Randy said they estimate 3,000 to 5,000, so
Mhm.
it's not horrible. But So and he said that they ought to be here tomorrow to be able to do it, so.
And those will last 2 years.
Well,
If they take
technology, you get 4 years out of it, you know. So hopefully it lasts longer.
Yeah.
But yeah, so doing that, and we put in an order for another bus so that we have a spare, and then we can just cycle through the 4 of them. And that's probably it for those 3.
Okay. Anybody have questions for Jaren? Well, thanks, Jaren. We're going to move on to our consent agenda, which is the payroll check register, accounts payable check register, and the prior month's minutes. I don't know, do you need to look at this again, or you're all ready to, someone's going to make a motion?
I will make a motion to approve 7.1, 2, and 3.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, please raise your hands. That's unanimous. Thank you so much. How about Division 22 standards? You're going to get us there? Is that going on the...
Yeah, there's at least a slide deck with it, I don't know how helpful, and then, Mizu, did you get a copy when you can you pass that down to, thanks. Abby, would you like a copy? Division 22 report, totally up to, I'm gonna talk about it, but you're having, it's, it's all yours if you want it, I totally did not want it. Okay, so, just an overview of what it is. These are all the things legislatively mandated by the Oregon legislature, and the OARs that we have to provide assurances each year that we are doing them. The compliance with these rules ensures a baseline level of service across the state, and they talk about something called like being a standard school, or a standard school district, I should say. Standards and assurances of compliance are why this is from the state, signals our commitment to providing a high quality educational experience and equitable opportunities for all students. Division 22 standards articulate the floor of the education to be provided to the students, not the ceiling. So there's nothing saying this is the only things you should do, but making sure that everybody's done these things. And assurances the process offers an opportunity for districts not in compliance to reflect on areas in need of attention and receive technical assistance. And I will also say, like, it's continuous improvement. These aren't, if you say, hey, we're not compliant, the way this works is the board says it needs to approve, okay, we're not in compliance, here's the timeline we approve, and then they kind of, on regular timelines, email and say, are you meeting that? And if you're behind on that, then the next time you update this, you say, that timeline's different, here it is. As long as the board approves it, that's where a lot of the local control plays out. And at some point, there are things that, if you're not making progress on there, the state can come say, wait, hey, you're not providing this baseline layer. But I have not seen this done from a punitive standpoint, especially if you're saying this is where our holes are and how we want to be transparent about fixing them. So, lots of categories: teaching and learning, health and safety, district performance and accountability, and human resources and staffing. And then you can see the teaching and learning has the longest part, and the health and safety has quite a few plans as well. And if you see up on the right, includes over 50 rules, and so that report that you're looking at, if you really want to read it, click the button. I sent this to y'all, but you can click the button on it. You can read the whole legislation in there. That's how I read all 50 rules, very fine-tooth comb-wise. I think that's important for me to know the expectations, and then I did asking questions of, hey, do we really have this, and where is it, in the cases that we needed to have something written and communicated, either for ourselves or written and communicated with the public.
Who were these written by?
The
ODE?
so the legislature passes a rule, and these are the OARs that enact
Okay.
that. Yeah, really fun reading. I don't know what's different about that slide. Oh, here. So that okay. So just to show you the types of things that are in each one, and I've talked about some of these. Maybe I'll and I will talk about a few of these on the next slide, but just so you can see the type of things in each section. Everybody good if I go to the next slide there? Oh, just kidding, not yet. Okay, so for us, and I always like to remind people we're not talking about right now. We're talking about a audit of last year, and so being new, that's a little weird, and so lots of calling and questions and do we have this? And I kind of landed, being new, I kind of landed on if I ask 3 people and they don't know where it is, that we don't have it, and if I find out when we start working on it that we have it, I'll change to compliant. So, but I kind of landed on transparency of at least the people I think should know where it is don't know.
Right.
So.
At the very least, it probably needs to be better known then.
Yes, that's how I felt.
Yeah.
So, and there's a little. So for this year, the changes from for reporting for this year about last year, the main changes were that there's a current waiver on essential skills, assessment requirement as a graduation requirement, and then the kindergarten assessment was not a requirement last year. And then this operational plans. I looked this up twice and read the OAR, and it was not helpful, but I'm pretty sure this is the blueprints for COVID to stay open, that these were a requirement. Where this ended up in there, I'm not totally sure, but it was a thing, apparently.
The kindergarten assessment may never be required
Think
again.
back,
because
that's similar for essential skills.
I mean, there's a piece of legislation right now in Oregon legislature to banish it.
Yeah, there's similarly with essential skills, there's the grad requirement. There's like work to redefine Oregon graduation requirements, and it may or may not come back. So we'll keep an ear out about that. So the process: school district superintendents report to their local school board. That's happening right now, and the district's compliance with all Division 22 standards for 21-22 school year says by November 1st. We're in November. Close enough. School districts post the community report on compliance with public school standards to their websites by November 1st. We're going to get that posted tomorrow. And school districts complete and submit the annual Division 22 standards assurance form by November 15th, also ready to submit tomorrow. Just an update real quick. So the year prior, and I think I've updated on that in here, but the instructional minutes was found out of compliance. That's been fixed, and that's been updated to ODE. We're now within compliance, and then the state testing, opt-in versus opt-out, when it switched to opt-in, ODE reached out and asked, are you in compliance? And I said, yes, there was a board change, and we're in compliance now. So there's nothing in corrective action currently from the prior year. Go ahead.
So, because right now this past year, we required people to opt out, right? And that is compliant.
Yeah.
Whereas the year before that, we had required them to opt in, which isn't compliant.
Yeah. Yep.
We encouraged opt-out, we didn't require opt-out.
Right.
Opt-out is just a law they can use.
Right, but before we made them, it was,
Yeah.
the opt-in.
Yep.
Alright, thanks.
So this is just a quick overview of findings inside there. We made many of the parts of the various rules, but often do not have the written version of the plan that can be shared with the public. And a lot of those are the examples I was talking about earlier in my goals. Curriculum, I'm jumping, sorry. Curriculum and assessment, we do great things in our courses and classes, but do not yet have an articulated K-12 curriculum and an assessment plan that can be shared to families. And that's the work that will follow the portrait of a graduate that I was talking about earlier. Yep. and then we do not have an education plan and profile process for our 7th through 12th grade students. Just so you all know, we're also on corrective action for high school success, where finding a way to, the requirement is that 7th grade, we're working with our 7th graders on helping them understand their opportunities for accelerated learning moving forward and encouraging that. And if we had the education plan and profile in place, that would be part of that process. And I just want to make clear, not having a school counselor makes comprehensive guidance counseling really hard to do. Not impossible, but it's not in place, and that's not because nobody cares about it. That's because
We don't
we don't
have
have a counselor, and so we're committed to doing it. But that's just some advocacy of why having a counselor is so dang important. And then, so if you look through, there's, 50 or something rules. These are the ones that I found that we're not in full compliance with, and almost every one of them, it's because we don't have that written part of the plan. And so the only one that's different, if I can remember all these, the last one, teacher training related to dyslexia, we need one teacher in the K-5 who's here more than half time to have that dyslexia training. We're already scheduled that.
And so, like, that makes sense to have that for K-5. Is there a training for, a training for, 6th or 7th through 12th?
So in terms of Division 22, it's not a requirement,
Yeah.
but when we get that training, I think it's good. To your point of who else could and should we train, I would love that our special education staff is also trained, and then we have multiple people on campus able to screen, and it's really about early screening and intervention to help students with reading. So good point noted. Of today was just about who needs it, and I got a hold, and we're gonna train Jocelyn Kane, who's our title interventionist, but it doesn't just have to be her.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, okay. Yeah, because those kids come up here
Yes,
and.
or if you receive a student,
Right,
Exactly.
yes, who wasn't assessed, and you don't
yeah,
have
they
to.
didn't
Which
take
we're
care of it.
We're
you know?
actually
Yeah.
working through a situation like that right now, and it's like, what's best practice?
Yeah,
Everybody learning.
right.
So, we'll make sure that training is more than just one person. Go ahead.
The two that are related to tag, because those were in the policies.
Exactly,
tonight,
and
too,
that's why I
so-
recommended this to go first.
Okay.
If I can I can jump back to the slide for sure.
Okay.
But just the looking ahead in compliance, the reason I thought this slide deck might lay the groundwork for those policy updates. So the new revised rules and requirements, physical education requirements are going up for middle school. Operational plans, plans for operation submitted on their form. This is the funniest thing, because operation can mean a lot of things. I'm pretty sure that's about emergent. I don't know. Do you know? We'll figure that one out. I don't know. Agreements into with voluntary organizations requires adoption of a policy governing participation in a voluntary organization that administers interscholastic activities, and this is that they must have policies that prohibit discrimination and have a complaint process with sanctions, and administer an annual survey, and OSAA does that and has made a strong commitment to doing that.
Can you, is that, but that's all voluntary organizations?
Yeah, through,
And
so
policy
governing
adopted.
participation, policy, that administers interscholastic activities. So for us, that is OSAA, so it's not all groups that we would participate with, but whoever's overseeing our interscholastic activities. If for some reason we were like, nope, we're not part of OSAA, we're some independent, whoever we contracted with would still have a requirement to have those policies in place.
Are there any other organizations other than OSAA that we do that with now that are?
I'm not aware of anybody, I read this as stay in OSAA because they're doing this.
Well, I was kind of thinking, but middle school, sports are not OSAA.
So if we had, like a TSP
that
or
term?
something?
Not TSP even.
Because they wouldn't be administering.
The middle school, so TSP is not administered through the school,
Yeah.
so wouldn't be subject to this.
Mhm.
But the, like, middle school sports aren't OSAA, right? We already understood that they're not OSAA.
It's a good question, because we have a
We have a
league and we have
league.
SOPs, and so
Mhm.
does the league have to adopt those? That's a
Yeah.
good question. I'll
Yeah.
bring that back through
Yeah.
Carrie. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
And these are they're for this year actually, so we want to make sure that we're in compliance. And then this is to your point about tag. Districts should post current tag plan on the district website and have it available on request. Districts shall update ODE annually with tag contact information. Parents and students have the rights to discuss the tag plan. Updated tag plans are due by May 1st. So we're taking action like in doing this, but the policy has shifted, and so OSBA sent out, based on this updated rule, OSBA said, hey, boilerplate policy should switch in these ways to be aligned with new legislation, and that's what's in the, and there's a number of them that were impacted, and it was kind of like deleting some of the OARs, taking on new ones, merging, and my recommendation, well, I'll talk about that when we get to it, never mind. And then person who's responsible for identification must be trained, and we have that in place already. Yeah, and that's my sentence to say. That's then done. So, any, let me go back just to this slide, but any questions on any of these, and some of it might be just time to look through. And I did, even where we were in compliance, I think where they said that's not the ceiling, it's the floor, right? There's a couple spots it was like, hey, we have some strengths and we have some opportunities for improvement in this area, and I just think making this form more than compliance and an opportunity for continuous improvement and transparency to y'all, to you, and to anybody else if they found it online, I think is an important way to approach it.
So this list is the ones that you said that we weren't, for one reason or another, we weren't compliant last year? Or
Yeah,
21, 22,
yeah,
22.
yep.
So, but the stuff for the tag ones, those new policies are about getting us in compliance for next year. So what were we not?
What are we not in compliance here? Good question. Some of it, we did not, so during COVID, tag services really were on, like we were low staffed last year, nobody was identified, and really tag services, parent meetings, those types of things didn't happen. And so this isn't a, hey, we're terrible, it's, hey, we were understaffed and didn't do it. It's a commitment to make sure that it's happening moving forward. And I have a note in here, we're gonna universally screen all 2nd through 12th graders. 2nd and 9th, we're gonna give a full assessment to. The rest of them, we'll do, there's something like a mini screener that then if you're in the 90th percentile, you go give the full screener to, so that it doesn't take as much time. And then following that, it would be 2nd grade and 9th grade, we give the full screener every year, but not to everybody. And then any new student coming in. So then we have a process. And it sounds like our process has been off of teacher recommendation, and it's not a terrible process, and that often includes bias inside of who gets seen and who gets overlooked, and so this is a way to say,
Well, and
like,
is,
we're
in
gonna
that
see.
screening, is that in a testing sense?
It's they use multiple measures. So I was checking in and talking about this. So the recommendation comes from I believe from a teacher. I don't know if there's other pathways, but and then they look at multiple measures, and so it could include and you can use state testing. You can use evidence of student work. There's some different ways. They're supposed to be kind of standardized. Not all of them have to be. And so that's been kind of the process that's multiple. We'll still use multiple measures, but we'll have this standardized screener to say, okay, here's who kind of
Okay.
rises to the top
I
in
was
these
just
areas.
like, oh gosh, if
And-
it's like, I didn't want to be like a whole testing issue
No,
thing. 'cause
no, it's not. This one, like, there are places where standardized testing actually helps, and that there's, the one we're choosing, I wish, our tech person was here, but, assesses on multiple areas, so it's not just saying like if I'm using standardized testing, I might say like, oh, these are kids who were 90th percentile and above in mathematics, so therefore they're gifted in math, and we don't see the other areas, and so there's 3 areas in there, and I'm not going to pretend to know what they are, but it's kind of looking beyond just performance in those couple course subjects.
I mean, I don't know if any parents would, but like, will they be like notified before that assessment is done? And then
not
also-
have to. Yeah, for
and like,
sure.
could they opt out if they wanted to?
For sure.
Yeah.
I'm glad you asked that. So never required, and I think there's lots of reasons that people would choose not to, and so we will definitely send that out and say we're universally screening everybody so that it's not a biased, right, identification. But if you're not interested in your kid being assessed and or being identified as tag, there
But
is
some
no
parents,
requirement
some
to
parents
take
want
it.
their kid, or will be the one to tell you, my kid is a tag kid. And they'll say, and I don't want them assessed in that rubric. Then how do you approach that?
That's a good question.
I
I'll
mean,
go
you
back
don't
to
have
my
to-
tag folks.
So that's
and
what
ask.
that's kind of
Yeah.
what I was asking, how in depth of like an assessment or testing wise it is.
Yeah.
I don't really prefer that method myself. Like, I think it is great for teacher suggestion, just like any other testing conversations we've had. There's a whole, that can cause a lot of different kinds of pressures, or I'm going to fail at this, but I know I can do better than this. I mean, I don't know. It comes with a lot of crap with it. So I just think that too strenuous of an assessment or testing doesn't really measure it.
Yeah, I will say the intention of this isn't to say this is the only way. It's to
Exactly.
make
Yeah.
sure we see
Yeah.
more kids
Right.
as talented and gifted
Yeah.
versus the traditional ways of being successful in a certain academic subject. So this isn't about
Yeah.
closing off certain options. It's making sure that our vision of talented and gifted is actually broadened.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. I mean, I think that's really important, and I like teacher input, but I do think it can come with biases if like the kid is really, really talented, very gifted in something, but has behavior problems.
Sure.
Like, I think then teachers tend to, just because it maybe focus, like, just wouldn't recommend them for
Yeah.
a tag program or something. So like,
And sometimes that behavior issue
Is
is
an
actually
indicator.
because we haven't
yeah,
Exactly.
identify
Behavior
that.
talented
issues
and gifted.
comes
and
out of
we say
boredom
that,
and
absolutely.
Yeah.
not being pushed. Yeah.
Yeah, stuff
Absolutely.
like that.
It's good to have a battery of options.
That's
I
and
like
that's what
that.
we're building towards.
Uh-huh.
Well, yeah, and that's what I think. Like you could have 5 different kids that fit this bill, but they all came from 5 different suggestive ways.
And I'll say one of the things we're talking about as a staff, this goes off a little bit beyond tag, but is really like, what does it look like to have individualized learning plans within the system here? And so tag's just one example, right? Talented and gifted, you get an individualized learning plan, but really our goal is that
Every kid.
we're doing
Every
that for
kid.
every kid, and it's
Yes.
based in their strengths. And so
Yes.
that data for all kids is actually going to help us. And so that's where, like, if I want every parent, if they don't want their kid to take it, to say no, but the ways we're going to use it aren't just to say you're tag or not. It's a layer of data to inform us about these individualized learning plans. So some of that will be the communication and framing about how all of this connects.
I was just thinking about the parent who thinks their child is precocious and should be tag, and then they get the test and you're like, well, yeah, your kid's awesome, but like tag, not really.
And it's like everybody's talented and gifted
Totally.
somewhere. I think that's the thing
Totally.
is like education
For
gets
sure.
like, and I don't
It's
I
a
shouldn't say
terrible,
this out
it's
loud,
actually
but
a terrible
in
title.
Oregon it's not funded, so
Right.
it's on, right, like
Yeah.
that title is like, yay, what does the school do about it? And
Mhm.
I think we can be doing a lot, and that's where these individualized learning plans, I think, are the way to be really saying, like, what's your thing? Let's figure out how to get you to do your thing.
Yeah.
Isn't talented and gifted a really lousy title?
Right.
I mean, because like you said, every kid is talented and gifted in some way, and it's just, this is the cream, and, you know, I don't think it's helpful.
There are, like,
Are there other titles to that?
it's interesting, like, with this, when I was young, it was Project Potential. I don't know
Oh.
if that's any better,
Oh,
but.
no, it's not.
That's a terrible name.
So,
I don't wanna be Project Potential.
fair enough. You're stuck in a project. Just to say, like, it's not just like your cream of the crop and ranking, like, done correctly, like, there is science that some brains are firing different in different
Of
ways, and so, and that's true for all students in
Of
different
course.
ways, but in the academic setting, how do we make sure we're attending to each
Yeah.
need, so.
It's just that we
Yeah,
are a verbal species, and how we communicate
Yep.
sets the tone, and we say things to kids, and that kid says, well, I'm
I'm not talented.
Right.
Yeah,
It's
well, and
not
that
great.
that plays out,
like it.
and like there's research on like growth mindset and fixed mindset, and like
Right.
calling a kid smart actually like builds this fixed mindset of like the first time they feel not smart, then it's like,
They're not resilient.
oh, actually
Yeah.
I was smart until now,
Right.
versus like actually I can learn
Yes.
and get
Right.
smarter,
Right.
right? And so it all plays into it's interesting stuff.
Yep,
So.
it is.
Anyway,
Okay.
that's the, my follow-up, just so you know, there's a lot of dates in there.
Yeah.
Like, those are kind of guesses, but the further I got, I was like, oh, there's more.
Yeah.
And so those dates might not be accurate.
Mhm.
My next step is to take all of those plus other things that are moving right now and put out that timeline and say, like, here's how they actually fit over a 3-year plan. And of those, like, I mean, I don't know that I have a least priority, but something might have to move out longer just about writing the plan. It's not that the work won't be happening, it's just like, you can't just sit at your computer and write all the time. So I'll get that kind of picture out to y'all as the next step.
Yeah, and a lot of these and those relate to the goals you already put, so that you
Absolutely.
be progress towards goals.
Absolutely.
Great, okay, let's move on to the fun part. So we're doing our board policy, the first read of these policy updates.
Let me just, I don't really have anything visual up there.
Okay.
I don't know how y'all have done this before. There's a lot of them. Let me tell you what I did. There were 32 or something. It was ridiculous, right? How many made it? But they send them to.
89 pages.
Yeah, it was
a lot of pages.
Yes.
And it's really helpful that they send you the boilerplate that makes you pick all the language that's already been picked in
Yes.
your board policy.
Yes.
And so when I finally realized that, I was like, I get to start over, pull up the current board policy, pick the things we already have, and I'm not trying to change our policies, I just want to update the
Update
new
them.
things. And so anyway, I think they're all accurate. If a will and a may switched, it was not intentional. So there's required policies that you'll see listed there, and there's highly recommended policies. And what I chose to put on today's agenda is all of the required are on here, so we'd be in compliance. And then all the highly recommended except for 4, I put on this month's because I thought they were straightforward and I didn't think they were things that would be controversial at all, and they'd help us get closer to compliance with everything. There were 4 that I thought needed discussion that I don't know that people would want them or not, and there's choices about, do we need to do them now or could we wait till 2 years from now to do it? And so I put those on I'm gonna put those on December. So in my opinion, all of these are straightforward. I hope that's in your opinion too. I tried to think about you all in the ones I was picking, so,
I had one question.
yeah.
And it's really, I'm asking this question for Michelle, just in case she missed it. IMB, the District Improvement Program, it was called something else before. But it has an addition now that says that there's gonna be test results that are reported to us and all that, and I just didn't know how that fit in with all of our tests issues, and if we're sort of don't think that, I assume that they're talking about standardized testing, because I don't know how else we report on testing. So if we don't love standardized testing, then how can, I don't know, I don't like that, having that in a policy that says that you're required to report on it.
Yeah, let me look up,
So IMB is the one I was.
okay, give me just a second to get the current one and the new one.
I'm looking too.
I actually thought the way you presented it was the easiest way I've ever seen it.
It was my third time through it, so
Yeah,
thank
and
you.
but it actually, like, I understood what I was looking at.
I went into Jaren and was like, this is stupid. Well, I was like, what did Jody do? And she's like, what did you tell me? She complained too.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we've complained about this all the
Yeah.
time, every year, we're like,
Yeah.
oh, policy review, yes.
But a lot of, sometimes they were like, clearly like had been copies of things and like handwritten stuff, or just where you couldn't read because it was so small. This was, at least it was easy to read.
I am glad to hear that. I finally have a and it'll go faster next time,
Right,
like now
it's
that I
kinda
figured
good,
out how to
yeah.
do it, but oh my gosh, that was awful. I was with 2 superintendents yesterday and complaining about this, and let's see, I can't line up lines, hold on real quick. What, it was called Student Achievement Program.
Oh, I thought it was district improvement.
Now it's
Well,
called
it
district.
used-
They
yeah, it
changed
used to
the
be called
title.
Student
District
Achievement
Improvement
Program.
And then the new one is, I just wanna get where I can click both of these at the same time. Oh, do I, should, I don't have that, oh, son of a gun.
Well, I mean, they took out the student achievement will be defined by, but not limited to assessment results.
I think I need my little,
Yeah, I can't see it on Google. Little screen.
can anybody see, did we
I have
print
a- I
the
printed
changed one? Okay, perfect. I think we might need that, cause I don't have my, flash drive in that makes it where I can project it up there, I apologize.
The little screen is too annoying.
So
Like,
this is what's being added, right?
Test results and progress to the
It took out
community.
the line on the testing assessments.
Up top. So they're removing student achievement will be defined by the district and include but not be limited to improved assessment results, increased student attendance, and reduced dropout rates in diploma attainment. The district, and instead, the district will accomplish this through continued evaluation and improvement of its programs. So I read that top part as just continuous improvement, but the part to your point, there's an added sentence. District will annually review and report test results and progress to the community. And their do we know their reasoning? Personally, I'm fine if it's not there. I don't know legally what that would, so that, and in the, I do have the, I think I have that open, the summary. IMB district improvement. So the summary, the State Board of Education recently made a revision to the rules related to improvement plans and programs. It changes the self-evaluation requirement from once every 3 years to once every 4 years, which is nice. The remaining revisions recommended reflect changes from other updates of the rule. No collective bargaining impact. local district responsibility. If the district has this policy and its administrative regulation, AR, consider the recommended updates and submit policy to the board for readoption and the AR for review. And I don't remember, is the AR included in here as well?
Yeah.
I wonder if that's one of the ones I moved to, hold on one second, IMB.
Cause I don't see the AR.
It is one of, so I actually chose to move the AR to next month because I thought it was one that needed conversation beforehand, so I got that part. And then the district improvement program, my initial read of it was more that it was like aligning to continuous improvement plan, processes, but that piece there, the district will annually review and report test results and progress to the community. I feel like there's something in Division 22 that says that somewhere, but
Well, and it's not necessarily state testing.
Right.
yeah.
But what would you report if you have to report something to the community every year, what would we report?
Well, that's where my hope is we're building some local assessments and things that were actually out of compliance with local, so like,
Demonstrations of learning, stuff like that.
yeah, and embedded, performance assessments, right? Like, there's a state rubric for writing. It's good, right? That's not anything, it's like the 6 traits rubric. And if we committed to using that, like we should be scoring some writing sample per grade for kids using that already. So I'd be happy to get us using that and then say, what's that process looking like and is our writing improving? And I think that would meet the annually review and report test results and progress to the community. It doesn't say which ones.
That is what the alternative is to standardized testing, is locally created
Your
formative
own
assessments.
Okay, as long as that statement
Yeah.
includes
That option.
those other options, then I'm fine with it.
Could we, do we want to, can we? I assume we can add our own words into it at
We
some
totally
point.
can.
Yeah, so if it was.
These are just recommendations from OSBA for lazy
Yeah.
people who don't read this stuff.
Yeah,
Thank you, Mary Ellen.
That's a good catch.
yeah, but if it said the district will annually review and report, locally embedded, locally, there's a word for it that's real. Local performance assessment results, and progress to the community. Now there's accountability to us making sure we do
The
that.
reporting to the community part makes sense to me, it's the what are we reporting?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love it.
Oh, that's
Do you-
good.
I don't know how, can you capture that as a note in the minutes and then we'll figure out how we actually do it? I can get into these later, I just,
Yeah,
they're in a
not
lot
right
of
now, yes.
forms and then how we give them back to OSB. I don't exactly know how we make sure it gets in there, so. Cool, good catch. Any
that's
others, that you saw looking through them?
It's interesting because when I saw that, I thought, well, that's just one that I will recuse myself on, and now I don't have to. I can support it because it's exactly what, people like me who are anti-SBAC, we are not anti-assessment. And that really has to be stated. People have to understand that we just think there's a better way to do it, so this is great.
And I think this conversation will help us with the AR, because I think the AR is where I read it and was like, I don't think we like this. Oh, yeah, perfect, thanks. Cool, so that'll be a fun conversation with the AR.
Thanks.
Do we have to vote on these one at a time?
We don't vote on them yet.
Oh, just kidding,
This is the first reading.
Good.
Yep, so
But
now.
for next time, do we have to go one at a time?
No, well, no, we can lump them.
Okay.
Yep. We can make a motion to lump them, and then if
If
somebody.
someone says a long sentence of all these things,
Yeah.
Right.
8.1, 1.2, 3, 4.
Right. And then if somebody says, like, if we have discussion, somebody's like, well, I don't wanna vote on one, one of these is not, then we have to,
Okay.
yeah.
Exactly.
Wait, that was a
Thanks.
long list?
Mm-hmm.
That went way faster than I anticipated.
Yeah. Well, good work. crew.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was good work.
All right, can we go to personnel 8.2?
Basketball coaches.
Yes, so these are, I was gonna ask you, do we have an assistant coach at the high school boys?
You have
Not
it posted,
yet.
it's posted, right? I
Yeah,
guess
and there's a,
it's-
we're begging a certain person, but I know they stopped by to pick up some paperwork, and then I don't think we saw them again. At
Oh.
least I didn't get an update if they dropped it off. So
Okay.
did you get any paperwork? Okay. So hopefully, and
But-
not yet.
Right, but yes, it's still, it's right.
Yes.
It would be good to have.
Assistant boys, middle school or high school?
High
school.
High school. Yeah, we have assistant middle school. We have a head and assistant
At all the
Middle
other
school.
levels, I think.
at both, and then we have 2 assistants, but one's paid and not, one's unpaid and sitting at this table and not listed here.
Right, exactly.
So,
Okay, so I will entertain a motion unless there's more conversation to be had.
I move to approve the 8.2 of that personnel of all the coaches.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all those in favor? It's unanimous, thank you
The
very
only
much.
discussion is thank you to all the coaches. I know that they're not here, but like,
Yeah,
you know, it's like, it's so important that we get that these positions are filled, and just, you know, lots of gratitude to them for doing it.
yeah, thank you for saying that, and I want to give a shout out too. So our high school and middle school boys don't practice till 5:30 or 6 because of coaches' work schedules. And giant shout out to Kathy Vermilia, who is running an after-school study hall for our boys. So if you saw kids sitting down here,
Good.
so from 4 to 6 every day, they have time for studying, a meal, and then those with A's and B's are going to get some more freedom and privileges and hang out, and those with not all A's and B's are going to have more study time support. And she's running it, so thank you to her.
That's
well,
awesome.
that's so great,
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah, thank her for us. And yeah, 8.3 is the student body checking account.
Yeah, so this is a revisit from a prior decision, I think 2 months ago. And yeah, full disclosure, I thought I understood what we were putting forward in one way and did not ask enough questions. And when it started playing out for real, there were a couple questions were asked. I was like, what did we approve? So we went back, and we're actually out of, it moved us out of policy. And so the student body accounts, we can't run the process. We can't, ultimately we can't make the business manager and the person overseeing student activity funds the same person, and that's effectively what was playing out. So this is my,
Change to that.
forgot that, yeah, revisit to that to say, just kidding. So the one consolidation we are gonna make is instead of having middle school and high school student body funds as 2 separate accounts, we're gonna merge those and just have a single account. And then we'll still have an elementary, so Carly will be the overseer of the elementary student body funds, and Jamie will be the there's a word for it, it's the manager or whatever of the student body funds for middle school, high school, and then those get deposited into an account that the business manager oversees, and there's some policy that this gets us back in compliance with.
But so, Jaren, from your perspective though, then aren't you back to trying to write checks from a whole bunch of different accounts, which is tricky?
So we actually, because it's 2 different accounts, the signers for for the student body account, the signers will be me, Joy, and
Jaren.
and Jaren, but it's a separate account and it's a different set of checks. And then the signers at elementary are Carly. I keep saying Carly. She's overseeing it. Are Brenda and Jaren.
Yeah.
And then, like, the tediousness of it will be where Jamie keeps track of all the different
And Carly, yeah.
accounts, where he's only writing a check out of one account for any of those items, right?
It'll be, well, it'll be on different ones. It's gonna just basically go back to how it was.
I mean, we can see the wisdom and the good advice that you gave us when you said, let's do it this way, and we're like, yeah, why the heck not? Well, there's a reason why the heck not, and now we're going back to why the heck not. Yeah,
Well, I'm sorry, Jared, because I know that's a pain in the butt. but-
Yeah.
or
yeah,
Sorry.
it is.
I'm just going to implement some additional,
Processes.
yes.
Okay, so we're
You said that kind of under your breath, it makes me super suspicious.
Just additional, yes.
Ways to
Stuff-
simplify.
stuff more, I wouldn't say safeguards, but so that the information is coming to me instead of me having to go and get the information.
Oh, well, that makes sense. Yeah, great. You have our full support. Okay.
And essentially, we need Jill to
approve
approve
that.
that so we can give it back to the bank to say, just kidding, can you
Precisely, we have to
reopen those
undo
and
what
do
we
this?
did.
Yeah.
Okay, so is there a motion?
Yes, I move that we approve 8.3.
I second it.
Moved and seconded, all those in favor? Unanimous, thank you very much. 8.4, co-op high school softball with Elmira High School.
Yeah, oh, and I didn't write it, but that'd be for a 3-year co-op.
Oh,
Did
Is
we
the,
only do one
the
year last year?
recommendation. It was a 1-year, right?
Mhm.
Okay.
And the ask, the request in there is a 3-year. So,
I move that we co-op high school softball with Elmira High School.
A second.
moved and seconded, all those in favor? Unanimous, thank you. Why do we have Division 22 here?
Cause we moved it
We
up
moved
earlier.
it up.
Oh,
crossed
that's
it out.
right, that-
That's so you got there and go, whoo, we don't have another thing.
Check that off the list.
Do we have to approve it or anything, or no?
So, I don't think so. I
Okay.
think it just, I need to send the minutes that it was in here
Okay.
and a couple things, but we're,
Okay.
Yeah, it's not an action item.
yeah.
So
Well,
It-
except it has to be under action. Both the Division 22 and SIA annual report have to be under
They're
action. but
reports,
they
they're
have to.
just not voted on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, really?
But not
Okay.
voted,
So we don't have to approve this as the plan
I don't see anything that says it needs approval. It
Mhm.
just needs to be
presented to us.
in the minutes.
Okay.
If you see that it needs approval, you'll bring it back to us.
Yeah. No, I'm just gonna send it and be like.
Yeah, you're right. All right. And, okay, so.
Okay,
the
SIA annual report, and the thing that this does require is us to pause for a few minutes here and offer the opportunity for public comment. And that is actually, it's out of normal process, but it's a requirement, so
Okay.
just to share that.
On the SIA annual
On the
report.
SIA
Okay.
annual report,
Okay.
and it's fairly short, I'm just gonna read it to you, but I am, maybe one more time, it's my last time on here, I promise.
Is it the same, one that?
Maybe, you can just open it. I have a slide with like 2 extras, it doesn't have to use the slide, but I have it open, that's helpful. Okay. And I think this was connected in your agenda too, but if it wasn't, I'll make sure you have it. So, like, just a reminder, $2 billion to the state school fund, 50% is, that's biannual. 50% is the student investment account, which is money to districts off the corporate activity tax. 2 overarching goals, meeting students' mental health and behavioral health needs, and goal 2, increasing academic achievement, including reducing academic disparities for 5 focal groups, students of color, students with disabilities, students navigating poverty. I've said this a million times in my life now. Poverty, homelessness, and foster care, and students who are emerging bilinguals. The reason I paused is because I said 5 and it's only 4. My brain was trying to process the mistake. And then just a reminder that the Mapleton one is built around 5 outcomes that include professional development and collaboration. District curriculum is aligned horizontally and vertically, and teachers are supported to provide differentiated instruction with engaging, relevant learning experiences. So this is all the activities and strategies, right, are hopefully aiming at that. Mapleton School District develops and communicates a graduate profile and multiple enrichment and intervention opportunities that support students to reach individualized goals, which excites me that that's in the plan because that's where I like to start. All staff implement school-wide and classroom age-appropriate, trauma-informed restorative practices, including connecting students and families to services to meet basic needs. Enrichment programming can be linked with positive changes in academic success, social and emotional well-being, community engagement, and overall school and community climate. And then lastly, career-connected learning opportunities empower students to engage in Mapleton community revitalization efforts. And so this is again reporting on the spending of last year's money, right, towards these 4 strategies: provide educationally enriching Friday school programming, create a safe, respectful, and restorative culture for all students and adults that supports the social and emotional well-being of students and adults that is critical for academic and professional success, and invest in facilities upgrades to provide safe space for CTE program expansion. A lot of that happened in 2021. And then increase capacity to provide curriculum-embedded intervention and enrichment opportunities. And during last year, most of the funding went to strategy 1, and then 4.
Does this report go to ODE?
ODE, yep, and really it's 4 questions, and so all I did was copy and paste the 4 questions, and I'm gonna read them out loud to you. They all year long, so at 4 quarters, you answer a couple different questions and then give updates on the expenditure report, and then kind of red, yellow, green, where are you on progress with a couple notes, and then this is the hey, 4 questions, write up a little narrative, hit send, and read it to your board, and then hit send.
And it doesn't get, for transparency, it doesn't get posted on our...
It does it also needs to be posted on our website.
Okay.
Yes, yep, thanks for that. So the first question asks generally about the implementation efforts and what positive impacts and progress that we're seeing. So throughout the year, our students utilized Friday School to access increased academic support, plus social connection and wraparound supports like food, clothing, etc. Transportation and food allow us to encourage higher attendance. Similarly, we added time for recreation in the gym to encourage health and wellness and time for relationship building during that Friday School. We have a number of student athletes who attend Friday School regularly so they can limit transportation needs to and from school on non-school days. And we did purchase the van using this money, so that's part of the transportation there. Using a student investment account and I don't know what ESSER stands for, that's the COVID money. Funding, we increased our staffing to provide supports for our students with disabilities and those with higher academic needs. At the high school, we opened a support lab where any student can go get focused one-on-one and small group support throughout the day. At the elementary, we increased the number of small learning groups provided throughout the day. Professional learning was provided in partnership with Lane ESD throughout the year. Elementary teachers focused on community circles and later had time to engage in a literacy adoption process, and secondary teachers looked at systemic ways to build a culture of belonging. That's question 1. Question 2 asks about barriers and challenges. Our biggest barrier was the inability to hire a licensed school counselor. We had the position posted for almost a year with no qualified candidates. At the end of the year, the decision was made to shift this money to hire an elementary social emotional learning teacher who also teaches 3rd grade literacy. We do have mental health specialists available to students through a partnership with Peace Health. That said, state leaders should be aware that the limited programs for school counselors are limiting district hiring and thus our capacity, especially in small rural districts, to offer a comprehensive school-based counseling model as outlined by the state. Beyond counseling, the pandemic and related vaccine requirements forced us to operate understaffed, losing critical staff at the secondary level. This year, that's a mistake there, but this year was hard for many of our staff and students, and they demonstrated flexibility and resilience in working through the associated challenges each and every day.
So is there, it's so polite. It's so polite to say, that said, state leaders should be aware. Instead of, that said, hey, you state leaders, you should be shifting some funds to fix this massive problem.
Yeah, so
Not that they would, not that
Happy
that
to
would
Less
get
polite,
them off.
right,
the-
not that less politeness would actually.
The thing is, like, so this goes to ODE, who then can
Compels
advocate for those things
Mhm.
through different packages and committee work and that kind of stuff. So, if this was going to the legislature directly that allocated those resources, I might say like, no, like, loud and clear, the only thing you should be thinking about is this right now, the kind of thing. But the people at ODE are well aware of this,
Of
and so,
course they
and
are.
advocating it there. So I'm happy to make that stronger language.
I mean, yeah, you know,
I just-
if you thought that it would have some effect, I'd like to see the, you know, a little bit of the screw turned to require our legislatures to get their butts into our school and see what it looks like when you don't have
Have a counselor.
counselors.
Yep.
So, I mean, I know that's, I only say that every year, about 5 to 10
Yeah.
times, but I have yet to see any person from Salem show up here.
Yeah.
Well,
But this is saying that the issue is that there's no programs, that,
It-
like,
so
you need more, that would
it's
send
higher
more money
ed.
to higher ed to
The,
have more
the
school
issue
council
is
programs.
they're not being produced. Like I mean, there's
Mhm.
very few programs,
Mm.
and
Mhm.
they're not, you know, so. And it's
Well,
supply and
that
demand.
is a
It's
different
because
thing,
you cut
yeah.
all the funding for it at one point, so you
Right.
couldn't get a job in it. So nobody went into education,
Yeah,
and the
no
money
one
went away. And so now it's reversing that whole process.
Mhm.
And there's some effort there. I actually have a meeting with Lisa Fragola from Pacific Wednesday next week, I think, to talk about I think Pacific's starting a program,
Mm.
and so we're talking about exactly this. And she's on the LCC school board and connected in important ways. So I will share this conversation back to her.
All right.
Can I just ask a silly clarifying question? About counseling, like, as you're referring to it here, like what are the counseling services expected in a counselor? Is
It's
it,
twofold. So that comprehensive school-based counseling, there's two. There's the school guidance,
yeah,
and then there's
That's what we
the
used to have.
meeting school, like,
Yeah.
meeting the needs like emotionally of
Right.
kids and those kind of things, and helping connect to other services.
right, so that, okay.
It's twofold in that comprehensive model.
And so that you would expect, if you're hiring somebody, you would expect them to be doing both of those things? Because they're so different and
Totally.
And
so,
it's
Totally.
there are people that can do both. I
Mhm.
think I want somebody relational. I can
Yeah.
build administrators can build the systems for the educational plan.
Mhm.
I need the counselor with the relationships to use whatever gets created.
Right.
So
I guess I would
okay,
just-
we're building this education plan and profile, but you know all the stuff we've talked about and your interests and you're this and you're that. How do we get it into this and open up opportunities for you?
I was, and that makes total sense and seems like fitting. When I hear school counseling, I'm usually thinking, I'm hearing, that sort of, I don't know, more mental health, more kind
Right.
of like, that. But I also, like, I know that from having recently worked a kid through the college application process, and not just college, but like any work, any like training program for anything, that like it took a lot of support, and we actually went and hired a person to do that.
Yeah.
But we could, that worked for like us, doesn't that work for everybody? So I don't want that part to get neglected, because sometimes getting kids to their next step is just a matter of like saying, hey,
Here's
there
how
are
you do it.
these things.
Yeah.
And you're really great at this. You might want to think about this. And
Yeah.
then here are the steps you need. So anyway, I just was curious about.
Which part of it? Yeah.
Yeah.
So in terms of the mental health side of it, we need somebody that's relational enough to get the trust to say, can I connect you to this resource
Yeah.
that has more, right? Because those are developing.
Yeah.
What you're actually describing is that education plan and profile.
Yeah.
And connected to that as you get closer to 12th grade, that's FAFSA and
Yeah.
all the applications, and are you sending them early or late, and are you
Yeah.
getting money, are you doing scholarships, all of those things are part of that education plan and profile, and it starts in 7th grade.
Right, I know.
So,
That
You
should.
know,
that
but like
whole
that
piece.
person in the end there, that your last year and a half, especially that last year where it's
Yeah.
more of the guidance counselor
Yep.
Mhm.
type tasks, like, it's great to, I mean, for lack of a better way to put it, that you're taking care of the emotional part of it, which is necessary and a good way to get to them to get the academics to happen, but whether or not someone in that situation needed that emotional help, they also need that.
Oh, absolutely.
And that has definitely been a lack over the years. I mean,
Yeah.
for the last 10 years, I know for sure when
Yeah.
our oldest graduated, so.
For sure, yeah.
It just seems like coming out of COVID, that the emotional problems they far outweigh anything. And I mean, to me, if you had to prioritize and you could only if we could get someone to come in here who didn't have the college bound or
I'm not
career
thinking,
bound.
I'm not thinking college, actually. I'm thinking college as one of the
Right.
like a whole, whatever range of things they need to connect to after. Because that's also mental health, like knowing that you have
That's somewhere to go.
opportunities and
later.
plans.
I mean,
you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's
Contributing.
But-
I actually think it's the same skill set.
Yeah.
And I think the state actually does a really good job. It's of that, if you look at that comprehensive school counseling model or something, I know it starts with comprehensive, and in it, it's guidance, but it's not separate. You can guide everybody and fill out all this stuff. If you haven't attended to basic needs, none of that guidance matters,
Yeah.
right? So it's both.
Yeah.
And for a lot of our kids, navigating that process is their basic need.
Yeah.
The rest is
Right.
there,
Yeah.
and they need to know where they're
Yeah,
headed
yes.
and why.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And that's part of building out that whole
Yeah,
scope.
yeah.
So,
okay, thank you. I just wanted to
and that's
understand.
that's where a school-based counseling program is different than a counseling program. And what's happening is
True.
there are
that's true.
very few school-based
That's true,
counselors
right.
being produced right now. So then you get somebody with a master's in psychology or a family and whatever counseling. I forget what those are all called. I'll take anybody
Yeah, right.
right now,
Yeah.
and I will
Right.
train you about schools, right? And we'll build these systems. But bottom line is, we need programs producing school-based counselors so that they know this when they're coming in.
And that's what
So,
Pacific is going to be offering?
I sure hope so. I'll know on when. I think that meeting's Wednesday next week. Yeah.
Okay.
Third question is about successes and challenges in maintaining community engagement. Friday school planning was a key point of community connection and planning. Due to COVID protocols, we're unable to host many of the annual events that bring our community together. Towards the end of the year, we were able to stipend increased communications to share information out to the community. Our board does a great job of staying connected and sharing information through their networks. Overall, we operated this year at an inform level. So there's this, the rest of that question is this continuum of community engagement, and it's like ignore, inform,
Engagement.
something, and then collaborate, consult, collaborate, and defer. And you want to keep moving up those levels while still informing. Totally lost my spot. Strength. Inform level, as our capacity for operating the day-to-day of the school year was limited as we faced staffing shortages. Strength of our engagement was partnership with Lane ESD. Their specialists supported our staff through both professional learning and curricular support. Additionally, in a time of medical leave and then community tragedy, able to step in and provide leadership and support in responsive ways.
That just makes me relive last year.
Yeah, and that's what this report's about, so
Yep.
we'll get it done and send it in. Our efforts were guided by the immediate, this last question is about what were the considerations for prioritization in your spending of the money? Our efforts were guided by the immediate needs of our students, especially those most impacted by COVID and the return to in-person learning. Friday school was the best mechanism for providing increased supports to students in a systematic way. Additionally, increased educational assistant staffing helped us ensure additional supports, while many of our teachers were forced to teach outside of their certifications. There was more money than anticipated, so braiding and blending funds to utilize the ESSER COVID and summer school monies was key. Decisions we're responsive to the moment. We look forward to taking a more long-term and integrated planning approach with the shifts to SIA planning in the coming year.
Mhm.
There's optional progress markers. We're not doing them. Any questions? And does the public want to make any comment?
And why aren't we doing them?
So the short answer, because they're more work. Long answer, the progress markers, I'm probably the biggest advocate for them in the state. I think they're really important, and they allow us to talk about progress in ways that are inputs. I don't know that we need to write them all down and send them in if nobody else is. I don't think there's a need for somebody to collect it and say, okay, they're making progress in these ways and seeing it there, and we haven't used those along the way here, so it doesn't make sense at the end in the annual report to sit down and go through it one at a time. My goal is to take those and put them into our regular reflection so that they're part of our process versus our making it up at the end.
Fantastic. Thanks for your report.
Yeah, thank you. In the minutes.
I mean, did you say?
Oh, it already says.
No comment.
Okay.
Don't you want to say yay or go team? Yeah, right. Cool. Well,
It made the minutes.
made the minutes.
All right.
Okay.
Did we make it through the action section?
We did.
Yes, you
Oh, let's discuss the Mapleton Pool Building.
So I have, you all approved it last meeting. It's been shared to Coast Radio, and then my appointment with Zach moved to Wednesday next week. I think that's my answer to everything, but I really do. We don't have school, so Monday and Wednesday are packed with meetings with folks. And so making sure that communication is out publicly and those kind of things. The next step, we really do need to figure out
What we're gonna do with that?
how much money can we match and what do we do with it? And if that's a small amount, we start moving. I don't think we have the match money to do anything big, and so now so what do we do? But I do think if we get it out on the radio and in the newspaper and hold our breath that some rich person reads it and goes, of course I want to help match that.
Yeah.
Maybe it works, and when it doesn't, we'll say let's buy something, so that we use
That's a piece
couple
of the next
things.
thing, yeah.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
exactly. So,
Yeah.
But we are addressing the envelope and the degradation of the envelope.
Not yet. We're not gonna be able to with
not with
this
that. I mean, the
money.
USDA money, I just don't
Right,
think
but-
that money's gonna go to, but
But
everything
pool
we're
building-
doing needs to be, so USDA may buy something else that isn't that because we got some money, let's get something. But everything else on that building needs to be about.
Right, and
building.
I mean, I see a discussion item that says Mapleton Pool Building, I'm thinking, yes, okay, great. But we have to start moving forward.
Well, you should talk about the brick grant or stuff like that.
So
like things,
there are
things that
other,
have been
so I
put
can share,
into-
and sorry, so there's a brick grant that is due December something, 12th, that we're putting in for 3, so we did the pre-application, the state came back, there were, for Lane County's portion of it, there were 40 submissions into this giant part, and they came back and said, we want you to move all 10 forward, but also said you probably want to prioritize, and when I say 10, that was 2 from us, 3 from water, and 4 from sewer, or something like that, so 10
Okay.
from Mapleton.
Right,
So they came back and said, yes, move all, we're interested in all 10, but you probably don't want to write 10 grants, so prioritize those, and I'm still submitting both of our 2, so generators and money for both the pool building and the middle school building, and one's for asbestos abatement and one's for the envelope. So, I
Okay.
mean, they're in the same grant, but
okay.
getting those to building compliance, which is part of resilience. And then there's also
Seismic.
Thank you. Seismic grant
Mm.
due, I think that one's like January, if I recall. Yeah, due in January, that will also put in a seismic grant for both those buildings. So
Cool.
there's stuff happening. It's just that USDA, the timeline for that
Yeah,
USDA money,
Not gonna
nothing's
work.
gonna happen.
Yeah,
off.
yeah.
I think we can all just, if we need
Yeah, we need,
washers and dryers and a something else, we'll get them and have them and
Cool. All right.
call it done.
Yeah, I hear you. All right. Any more on the pool building? Community engagement and committee updates?
Yeah, so going back to earlier of like laying out that timeline, kind of, well, so I will say we kicked off preschool parent advisory group team. I forget what what I'm using. I probably switch it every time. This November 7th, and that'll meet monthly on the first Monday of every month from 4:30 to 6. Is that true? Yeah, from 4:30 to 6, and had lots of generative conversation around engaging parents and families into the preschool program, and it extended into volunteer opportunities just in the school in general. So great conversation, great suggestions, and we're taking some actions forward on those. And one of the, I think the two main things that came out is like we could do these, one really quick and one slower. We talked about like models where you might not be able to come into the classroom during the school day, but are there things that like other ways to volunteer and be part of the program? And so we need help cutting this thing out for this activity, sending it home, and families that were there were like, we like when you tell us what to do. The bottom line is like, people want to help, but they want to be told what to do, and I think that's the permission. I think sometimes as educators, we want to be careful to not tell people what to do, and in reality, they're like,
how do we know?
I just don't want to show up and guess.
Yeah,
So
right.
like, I think, I forget who it was like, just tell me to flip the hot dogs, at the barbecue or something, that kind of takeaway. And then a real excitement for work parties of like, hey, if there's, so we were talking about the preschool fencing, and Randy was out of town last week, so I need to follow up on how much of this proposed cost is materials and how much of it is labor. And there was a like, hey, we like to get out and dig holes and put things in and do that, and so reducing that labor cost and stuff. So that's the follow-up that I'm working on with Randy.
Cool.
So,
How does that kind of get telegraphed through the community? Because there's a lot of people who can dig holes.
well, so one, we need a really clear project. Like, I think right now it's a lot of conversations about like,
okay.
here's what we could do. Now it's like, how much did that cost, and how much could it cost if we had people to do it for us? And then it's the planning and logistics to, okay, it's happening on this day at this time, who are people that can do those spots. So, but I think the first step is figuring out what the heck we're really doing.
Exactly. All right.
And then the rest of committees, so I've shared the community structure that I want to put in place. We're headed there. I feel like every time it's like, okay, I think I know what these committees' first priorities will be, then we do something like Division 22 where I'm like, there's a few other needs. Hold it, slow down. So I think, like, for me, it's that timeline gets pushed out, and I'm like, but it's also like the first half, or how long has it been? I haven't been here that long. The first couple months are really digging into like, where are we? Yeah, and I think every time you kind of feel it, then the next kind of as much as I hate doing all these reports, and hate's the wrong word, doing all these policy updates and reading Division 22 and reporting, it's really the chance to like slow down and say like, okay, what are I think I know the priorities. How well do we know them, and where are those spots for committees, and are those the right committees first, or do we have a subcommittee that then turns into another one? And so I'm playing with that a little bit, but getting really close to that project plan coming out. So
that's great.
I don't have anything else to say on that.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Well, me, and actually my crew and I, excuse my poor English, presented at the OSBA conference to a crowded room. It was really exciting. You never know. You spend months and months and months preparing, and then there's like, oh, there's only 4 people in here. Oh, this is going to feel really crummy. And the room was packed with a lot of people who basically were skeptical or curious, mostly skeptical about standardized testing, from board members to ESD staffers to a couple of superintendents, all who are over it and want to do something about it. So it's very exciting when you see that there really is potential to push back on what I totally believe is a harmful and wasteful practice. And to me, it's a dinosaur that's on the brink of extinction. When you see that universities are getting rid of the SAT and the ACT, the train's left the station, a lot of us on board, and really there's just no turning back. So I am committed to continue to bring this up every month. We will talk about this until we don't offer SBAC specifically, until we call the bluff of the ODE, who says we're not in compliance with Division 22 standards, and we say, yeah, we know, because we care more about kids than we care about satisfying you. And toward that end, at some point, what our plan is, this group of us, we're called Oregon Board Members for Educational Change. We are going to put an abridged version of our presentation together, and we're going to be trotting it out amongst the school districts that want us to come. We did have some people sign up for that when it happens. This was a 75-minute presentation, so it was packed. And the guys that I'm working with are such bright minds. They really make me look good. But we all bring something to the table, and nobody can talk passionately like me when I'm talking about protecting kids from dumb testing corporate greedy mongers. So yeah, this will keep happening. And maybe when we get it down to that abridged version, y'all will say, yeah, we want to hear it, because there's the history, which most of us don't know the history of standardized testing. And it's pretty nefarious, really. It's some nasty stuff. And you got to know your history. So that, and then, impacts and alternatives, that was what we did. And I can get out here and try to get you guys to join me in this work, but I think it's really important that we just educate ourselves a bit and tend the ground. I'm not the most patient person, but I'm going to be patient, so that's that. And there will be a part 2 probably at OSBA. I'm not a big fan of OSBA, but that's where board members go, and so you got to go where they are.
Go meet them.
I would like to hear the presentation when it's available.
Yeah,
for
cool.
sure.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Tribal and shared history. That's where are we at with that?
Yeah, you asked to
Yeah,
put it
yeah.
on there. So the grant that I mentioned for Dr. Kate's class it was a Selco grant for $1,000 for starting kind of languaging and learning the I don't know the name of the language. That's shows what I know. I've read that grant multiple times. Anyway, got approved. We just got $1,000
Oh, that's
on
nice.
Monday this week, or the approval for it.
Yeah.
I don't think we got the money yet.
Yeah.
And this is Indigenous Heritage Month, so just acknowledgement of this month and attention to that history. And I've shared out with the board the 9 essential understandings of Oregon tribes. I saw it printed in somebody's reading it. It's printed on the printer this morning. So getting it. And just really thinking through like those 9 understandings and how they show up in the curriculum and learning that our kids get to experience, so.
Yeah, I really appreciated that you were telegraphing that out. I mean, not that I don't love hierarchies, but like in the reality of a school culture, when the person at the helm is saying, this is so important that I'm sending out this missive to all of you, that says something, it's just really, I appreciated it. And I'm sure that I'm sure your staff does too.
Also, the resources are nice, the links that you sent and stuff,
For real.
because sometimes people don't know where to look for information that's like, that's good, so, yeah.
I'll keep sending some stuff. I get at least 2 or 3 emails worth to keep sending out, and one of them at the end will be one of our ESD employees, who's also a good friend of mine, is our Native social emotional wellness specialist, I think is the title, but it serves Lane County indigenous populations, and her biggest thing in working with teachers has been like, even people who want to do this work, the resources are all 1,500 clicks, and so she's organized this beautiful place to go with less clicks and see it all in one spot, and so at the end of the month I'll share that.
Cool, that's awesome.
Yeah, and I think for teachers, probably, it's not just a matter of resources, but also of to speak knowledgeably without speaking inaccurately, that takes a lot of learning and thought, and I think it's hard even with the resources to do well.
And I will say, we also have I think I shared this last time, the cohort for the county, that's the tribal and shared history cohort. This is the second cohort of it, and Dr. Kate is participating in that as well. So I think they're on I think the 3rd meeting is coming up this month, and she's had really good feedback about it.
How does that translate to here? Does she bring that here and then she does a PD?
Yeah, so that's built into the early in that cohort is just learning, and then at some point the expectation is bringing that learning back to, so teaching a lesson and then coming back and processing it with that cohort and getting that practice, and then actually the second year at the end, we'll certainly make space to bring that learning back, but for those who stay involved in the second cohort, that really is okay, you have this knowledge, you're still teaching some lessons and learning from each other, but how are you building the capacity in your schools and districts now is the focus of year 2. So, and this is the first year of year 2 for that cohort.
Okay, thanks. Let's keep that on the discussion item. Board goals for the school year. We did just do that.
We did it, but do we need to put it into this meeting or share anything
Well, I
for the
think
minutes?
now we need to go.
Oh, we're not done.
We're not
kind
done.
of align them against each other, right?
Yeah.
Yep, so I'll bring something back, so that should stay on for next time.
Yeah.
But we could call it board beliefs.
Yep.
and
The
back-
guiding beliefs. Yeah.
And next time, I guess it could maybe be
An
an
action
action
item?
item.
Yeah.
You know, potentially.
Okay.
We can try, we can float it as an action item.
Yeah.
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 That sounds good. More public comment. Now that you have spent all this time with us, you must have something you want to share. Nothing.
Ready for a
Fantastic.
nap.
Well, thank you, thank you for coming.
Yeah, thanks for coming, Andrew.
Listening and,
Okay, comments from the board?
No, I would propose to the chair and co-chair for the agenda planning for December that we do an executive session to check in on
Oh, yeah.
superintendent evaluation.
Right.
Yep,
we need
good
to plan
idea.
that. Yeah.
Well, just FYI, the chair will be gone,
Not be here.
won't be here for December. So, but it's still
But
vice
now
chair
are
will
we-
be running the meeting. Yes, the vice chair will be here.
So when are we doing it?
No, it's not till, we don't do it till
February.
February.
No,
It's
no.
just a plan.
The December meeting now,
Second week.
the 14th,
Oh,
right?
the December meeting.
Okay.
The
Because I was
second,
like the 3rd week is break already, so.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so the 14th.
I just wanted to thank you for showing up at the DCS meeting. I just wanted to put that out there that Sue showed up at our annual meeting in Deadwood. We have an annual meeting where, the community comes, we eat together, and then all the committees, the fire department talks, the food co-op, our little newsletter, everybody gives little updates, and Mizu and myself and Sue, mostly Sue, gave the school update, but it's just really nice that you prioritized us and showed up, and the community appreciates that. Yeah, so thanks for that.
I had to leave early, but I can share what I ran to.
Oh, yeah.
I made it to the very end, and one of our students, not the very end, but I saw the last three, but our student was one of the last three, and it was a storytelling event in Eugene that they had prepped and did an amazing job holding so much stage presence and shared their story with of their kind of trials, and the whole event was based around new beginnings.